Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and today I welcome everybody to an open live to answer any questions you might have had about criminal profiling and criminal profilers. Because I always get these questions here and there, and I thought I'll just do a show where everybody can just come and ask me those questions, the things they're curious about. And I want to first warn you, I'm coming out of Hawaii today as opposed to Maryland. Um, I do not have my usual uh, good Wi-Fi that I'm plugged into the router, and I have the top levels of speed. I'm here just on a Wi-Fi, and I did one show and it seemed to go okay without any buffering or glitches, but well, I'm not exactly sure how it's going to go today. And well, we'll just hope for the best, and I can see if it works. This is, by the way, this is my studio behind me. This is really what it looks like. This is my room in Honolulu, and so I set up this. There's my studio with the green screen. I duct taped it, but last show, right after I finished, the whole thing fell down. So I've reinforced it with some other things, and let's see if I get to the show without you just seeing the cabinets behind me. But you'll see that my carry-on came in useful to lift up the laptop, and also had a wonderful handle for sticking the microphone in. So that's what that's what it really looks like behind me. So anyway, I want to welcome everybody who is in the chat room, who has come here. Oh, aloha, lots of alohas. Aloha, everybody. Oh, aren't you nice? Oh, that makes me feel good. Thank you. Let's see what Angela has to say. You changed my perspective 100% on the McCanns. My eldest daughter's perspective changed too, and you changed her perspective on Adrian. What's his name, case? Adrian. Somebody. What's the last name? Adrian. Who? I'm trying to think of who that is. I'm not sure. Liz is now here. Cynthia is here, and let's see who else just rolled in. Look, here's another problem. So I can't use the air conditioner in the room, and the windows don't open. So I'm sweating like crazy, and my glasses are fogging up. Doing a show on the road is not as easy as you think. Haley's here. Cowie Boy, Funky Monkey. Alexandra is also here. Janet's here. Who else rolled in here? Okay, I think I said hello to everybody else. Lisa S is now here, and Rose and K-Ray, and I like the Funky Monkey. That's a great name. Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. It's very nice. Oops, wait a minute. Now I got to chase things here. Hold on a second. Oh, I got it. Okay. So far. Oh, wait a minute. What do you say here? Hi. I've been flat on my back with a creepy headache. Oh, that's lovely. So listen to your George Reeves program, and now I'm here to hang out. Listening if not participating. Well, all you're missing is my face and my glasses, which are reflecting stuff because I had new glasses that were just before I left. I got my real glasses. These are just my readers, and they came into the eye doctor, and I put them on, and they were completely wrong. I had to look at the book like this, and I'm like, these are multifocals. I don't look at the computer like this. I'm like, these aren't right. So they sent them back, but now I'm in Hawaii, and they just showed up in Maryland today. So I'm using these, which have no reflective, protection. So yeah. So I'm, it's a struggle to do things like this, but I'm happy to be in Hawaii. So there you go. Yes, I had a great Christmas. And that's one reason I did Thanksgiving and Christmas with the family in Maryland, and then took off. So happy to take off. And it's nice and warm here. Joyce, you finally got to watch a live. Aw, thank you. Yeah, my lives are usually, by the way, are patron only. Let me show you this. Yeah, for the most part, my lives are patron only. This is $5 a month, but it does keep the community, for the most part, a little bit smaller and get to know each other. And there's 2 lives a week, a case show and a hangout. This show is live because last week I was traveling. I didn't do a hangout, so I thought I'd do this instead. And but usually it's 2 shows a week for patrons. And then after the show is over, it goes live. It goes public for everybody. So if you don't want to join Patreon, don't have the $5 a month, which some people don't these days, please do subscribe to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, and everything is public. So once the live is over, so you can see everything. I don't hide anything because during an educational channel, it seems wrong to like, Oh, if you don't pay, I'm not going to show you stuff. So the Patreon is mostly for supporting the channel and also for us to have a good community and have the live shows. And so that's why I do it that way. So, but I'm glad you're here for this open live today. And wait a minute, now I forgot. I can't find my background now. What did I do with it? Hold on a second, folks. I clicked on something and I don't know how to click back. How about this one? No, that's not the one I wanted. Things are changing. That's weird. How about this? No, that's not it. No, I'm going to click all around. No, not that one. No, that's not that one. I don't know what he even had up here before. I think I just leave it like that because I don't know what happened to the one I thought I had up here. That's really strange. It's vanished on me. Okay. Oh, I'm still trying to figure it out because it's so weird. Oh, maybe. No, I have no clue. I'm just going to leave it like this. So, welcome from Poland. Wow, coming in from a long way. Best $5 a month. Well, I'm glad to hear you say that. That's nice. Okay, so let's get to questions about profiling. And greetings from the Czech Republic. Cool. Okay, wait a minute. Let me go to Lori. When you see cases where boyfriends kill their girlfriends, do you notice any patterns in where they tend to hide the bodies? That's an interesting question. Some of them just leave them in their houses and try to make it look like some serial killer or a home invader rolled in. Others will go to the work of putting their bodies in their vehicles and driving them someplace and dumping their bodies. The biggest problem they have with that is finding a location that the bodies aren't going to be discovered too soon. And also the big problem is for boyfriends is that when husbands, when a wife or girlfriend disappears or is killed, the first person the police look at is somebody that's very close to that person who wants to get rid of them for some reason. They don't want to go through the divorce. And people always say, well, why wouldn't you just divorce? Especially if you have kids. Why would you kill her? And sometimes all the kids. Why do you do that? Well, when you get divorced, it's not over. It's never over. Anybody who's ever been divorced knows this, especially if you have kids. Forever you're linked to that person. So a guy says, well, if I divorce my wife, I got to pay child support. And then I got to deal with her, gosh knows how many days of my life. And then I got to see the kids, deal with all that. I'm never going to be free. But if they all end up dead, well, then I am free. And if you're a psychopath, that may be a better choice. But so a lot of people who end up killing their wives and girlfriends, it is a tricky thing to make sure that they're not suspected. And usually they do kind of a crappy job of it, which is why they usually get caught or at least are suspected, because they don't make it look like a stranger did it unless they're really, really good. Lord, I avoid all the new Gypsy Rose stuff. The problem I have with the whole Gypsy Rose issue is this. Gypsy Rose was imprisoned by a psychopath for her entire life. She was abused. She was manipulated. Her life was completely screwed. And she found a boyfriend on the internet who was a psychopath. Everybody says, oh, he was just autistic. No, the guy wanted to rape and kill women. The guy's a psychopath. And she happened to find one that was very useful. And she said, why'd you kill my mother? And he did, because he liked doing it. So he deserves to be in prison where he is. She deserved to get the amount of time she did. She's got a lot of psychological problems. And I'm not going to say whether she's a narcissist or a psychopath or whatever. Her mother, it's hard to say certain people deserve to get killed, but her mother was an evil, evil psychopath who imprisoned her. And she had the right to be free from that prison. And that prison, people say, well, she was an adult. She was not an adult in mind, because what happened is when she tried to run away, her mother could just go to the authorities and say she can't live on her own. So she was really, the situation was horrific. What she is now, and I don't know that I believe half of the crap that's on the internet. So until she does something as an adult that is a criminal act, I say leave her alone. I did do if I remember to link it, I will, but usually I forget to do these things. If you go and you put into the search engine profiler Pat Brown, Gypsy Rose, I did a letter to her that said, look, you need to rebuild your life as a regular human being. Don't go for the media stuff. But I pretty much figured she would, because the media was all over her, offering her tons of money. What person isn't going to go for that? So she did go for that. So it's hard to say what she is at this point in time. But Nick is where he needs to be. She did her time. That's all I can say. So, hold on a second. It's so hot in here. I'm like, ooh, everything's steaming up. Ooh, okay. Yeah, I don't believe the crap on the internet. Be very careful of that. One of the problems that we have, and I say this all the time about what channels do you watch? When you watch channels which are gossip channels, and there are these true crime channels, they are not run by profilers or detectives or anybody with any kind of skill level. They're run by a lot of times 30-year-old girls who sit on their couch, on their beds with candles, and they got 2 million subscribers. A lot of the stuff they do is they plagiarize off of other channels like mine, so they get the information and then they present it as their own, and they're like, "Oh my God, did you?" And they do really well. But gossip is something they will jump on every day because that makes them clicks. And if you're spending your time watching gossip channels, maybe you should stop watching gossip channels. They're just not worth your time. It's just a bunch of garbage. I mean, I don't know why everybody's that concerned about Gypsy Rose. She did her time in prison. She's out. Leave her alone unless she commits a crime. And I have no interest in what she does with her life, whether she's got a new boyfriend or an ex-boyfriend, whatever crazy stuff she's doing. I don't care. She's not my daughter. She's not your daughter. Don't care. Oh, thank you, Pam. I'm so glad. Why? Because they make a crap load of money. That's why, Angela. They and I know this because I don't do it, and so I don't make a crap load of money. People will jump on the channels that are like almost daily channels that make a lot of money. Will take the top news and they will run with it every single day. It doesn't matter if there's really nothing new. They'll find something, or if there's one new thing, like something minor, they'll blow it up because that's what they do. That's how you make money on YouTube. So yeah, you do have to be careful with some of the channels. It's just a waste of time. That's just my opinion. Deborah says, I want to tell you that I agree 99% with your assessments. Oh, that's nice. And most people don't agree 99%, and that's okay. I respect the fact that when I do an analysis, you don't have to always agree with me. That's the whole point. You don't have to. But you could. I hope that when I give an analysis, the same way with giving it to a police force, if I give a police agency an analysis on a case, I don't want them to say, oh my God, Pat Brown is the goddess of profiling. No, I want them to look at what I say, see how I support my conclusions, and see how that will help them determine avenues of investigation. That's all. And so you say, oh, the Springfield 3. Okay, thank you very much. Springfield 3, yeah, it was so many theories about the Springfield 3, and I wasn't personally involved with the police department back then, but I was talking with the family way back. It's so long ago now. It's like crazy, but a lot of the theories are way out there. So it's just nice to have those that are a little bit more realistic. Where did I just see this now? Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Hello, Tracy, and thank you very much for supporting the channel. This is amazing. Always appreciate it. It's an educational channel, and I try to keep it that way. So thank you very much. Yeah, Jeffrey McDonald, guilty as heck. He's one of those that decided he wanted to be free. And once he got rid of his wife and children, boy, did he have a good time. He did. He went off and he was having, girlfriends and all that stuff. Yeah, he was having fun. So that's why they do these things. That's an interesting question. Are people who tell lies online for money a bit psycho themselves, or just not good people because they're saying horrible things about other people? Well, they might be ethically challenged. They might be. Some are clearly, in my opinion, psychopathic. Some are just narcissistic. Some are just kind of regular folks who just push it a little bit that direction because they can, and they try not to be too ridiculous. So when I see a channel that's a true crime channel that is telling the story as opposed to analyzing and do a pretty good job of it, then I sometimes recommend those channels because at least I'm like, okay, I think I like you as a human being, and I think you're being decent about things, and so yeah. But it's you know, it's always a question why people do things that they do. Renee, do you have an unsolved case that you worked that still haunts you today? Uh, well, let me put it this way. One of the things I learned working any case, and you're going to hear this quite often from any profiler, including FBI profilers, who I'm an independent criminal profiler. I don't agree with the FBI methodology, so I can get into that. But all of us will say this one thing. People say, how many cases have you solved? And we'll all say, we don't solve cases. The detective solved the case. The police agency solves the case. And that is true. We offer input as to what avenues of investigation will be best looked at. And of course, some people will say, well, you're just copping out because maybe your analyses just suck, and so you're just not going to admit you didn't solve that case. But it's reality. We don't have the power to solve the case. But are there cases that I've worked on which are still bug me? Yes. And the ones that, there's so many ways that can happen. I worked on a case. I haven't done a show on it yet. This case out of Texas where a young girl was, she was, I think, about 12. And she was found murdered between her house and her friend's house. She was walking home. It looked like a serial killer, but in my opinion, was not. And I was brought in by the family. And I went to the sheriff's department, I was talking with them, and they thought that the girl's father was involved. And the family was like, oh, they're just trying to railroad, her dad, even though they didn't really like him and he was in prison. But I analyzed the case and I agreed with the sheriff's department. And I got the family to understand why we all thought that, that this was not a stranger homicide. And I had worked out a deal with the sheriff's department and with the family to contact the father and pretend I was like a really dumb person, really dumb blonde profiler. I was blonde back then. This is box. But anyway, and everybody was on board. And for whatever reasons, it got shot down by some higher ups in the prosecutor's office. And now the case remains unsolved to this day. Very annoying when that happens. I have a couple other cases where I believe they have convicted the wrong person. Now, you'll see in my show, quite often I do these innocence projects. Oh, this guy was innocent. I'm like, no, he wasn't. The majority of people that the Innocence Project claims are innocent are not. Very rarely are they innocent. They may be technically shouldn't have been found guilty because some kind of poor handling of the case, somebody didn't do something right. But the majority of them are guilty. And I usually prove that by the end of the show that I do on them. But I have had a couple cases which I absolutely believe they have the wrong person in prison. And the reason it happens is they've got this case that's nagging the crap out of them. And there's this loser dude, one sort or the other, who they can sort of like pin the case on. And I have seen this happen, I would say, 4 cases, I believe the wrong guy is in prison. Now, mind you, the guy that was in prison in all 4 of the cases, the 4 different guys, they're all scum. I mean, nobody cares that they're in prison. That's the problem. So nobody's fighting for them. Nobody really gives a crap. They're like, yeah. Oh, I take that back. This one wasn't. This one was. No, he's not. He's free. But they claimed he did it. Didn't do it. So the other 3, one guy was already in prison, and they just said DNA matched him, but I know there was no DNA in the case, so it was impossible for that to happen. Another one was this guy that was this loser dude, and they said his ex-girlfriend said he had a gun like the gun. That was the entire evidence. He had a gun like the gun. But it was a 38. I mean, there are a lot of people who had a gun like the gun. And the other one, what's the other one? Oh, I'm going to do that case one day. Yeah, that's a fascinating case. But again, he was a psychopathic loser, and he was a criminal of all sorts. So they nailed it on him, and he confessed to it. But then later on, he said, still, and his confession didn't match. So there are these things that happen. It's frustrating because not because so much, oh, Pat, you were wrong, because that's what it looks, but that the wrong guy is in prison. That means the right guy is not in prison. Oh, well, let me give you the number one case. I completely forgot about it now. Superbikes. I will try to remember to link it below. Superbikes case is in South Carolina. Superbikes was a mass murder. 4 people shot down in a motorcycle shop. Stayed cold for years. I was brought in. I worked with the sheriff's department. I actually was in the place for an entire week. I said, look, everything points to this one guy. And I left, and the sheriff, whose name is Sheriff Wright, who I call Sheriff Wrong, who's been indicted for other crooked stuff, went on public and said, oh, we're looking at this guy who I said was ridiculous. And so I made a comment that was not true. And he said, well, that lady, that television lady, she didn't know anything about this case. She didn't read on the internet. Lying dog. So I put out a whole bunch of blogs saying I read it on the internet and pointed out all the issues of the case. And then they eventually arrested the guy. His name was Todd Kohlhepp. Todd Kohlhepp was a serial killer, and no question he was a serial killer. But as soon as Todd Kohlhepp was arrested, the Sheriff Wright came out and said, oh, and by the way, he's confessed to the Superbikes murder. And I'm like, he's a serial killer, not a mass murderer. What the heck? I listened to his confession. It was a complete pack of lies. And he also told, they brought this out, they actually told the public this on all the major media channels, that he knew something only he and the police knew, which was all the 4 people were all shot in the forehead. Not one of those people was shot in the forehead. I have the autopsy report. It's a total lie. So I went public about that, but he's still in prison for committing that crime. But he got out of the death penalty on the serial homicide cases by confessing to a mass murder he didn't commit. And the sheriff got to look really like, oh, I've solved this cold case. Stuff like that does go on, and it's very frustrating, very, very frustrating, and not fun. Oh, that's really cool. Wait a minute. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can pull this up. So yeah, so it is very frustrating, for darn sure. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Let me pull this one up first. Thank you very much, Connie. I appreciate that. Very much appreciate it. And wait a minute. There's one more here for the cat food. Wait a minute. That's rats. Wait a minute. I just saw a comment on that. Where is my comment that I saw? Wait a minute. Where'd it go? Rats rule. Oh, let's see. No, that. Thank you very much, Rats rule. We're in agreement on the rats thing. We both love rats. And thank you, Angela. Very kind of you out of the UK. I very much appreciate that. Tim says, I think you said you don't approve of the TV show. Thank you, Tim, very much for the support, too. Criminal Minds, which purports to be about profiling. Oh, yes, I will definitely. Let's talk about Criminal Minds. That's one of my most hated shows of all time. Wait a minute. I want to find my other comment here just before I do that. Okay. Thank you, Melrose, for the cat food fund. Thank you very much. Do I have my picture here? I don't know if I have my picture here. Wait a minute. Let's see if it's here. This one, I was going to, I don't have the picture here. I have a cat camera now back in Maryland, and I could see my kitty cat, which is a feral cat. And I filled up a big bowl of dry food and a big bowl of water, and I can now watch the cat camera. And he comes in every night and he eats his food and he goes and sleeps in his little cat bed. And people say, oh, he probably misses you, Pat. And I'm like, no, he's probably like, oh, the big beast isn't here. Yes. But he's going to be by himself for 11 weeks. So, yeah, but I have my granddaughter coming in and refilling all the food and water. And it's neat to watch him on the cat camera. So thank you for that. Okay, now to the Criminal Minds issue. Okay, Criminal Minds, stupidest show ever. And that does not represent profiling. Now, first of all, let's go to the FBI profiling issue. I've fought long and hard against the methodology of the FBI profiling. Now, the FBI, way back in the day, started interviewing serial killers in prison. And of course, that shows you they interviewed the serial killers that got caught, not the serial killers that didn't get caught. And one of the things that came out of that was serial killers were white, which is really funny because serial killers, are of all races and all cultures. But serial killers are white came out because one of the problems in the day was that Black areas of town, African-American areas of town, didn't get as much policing didn't get as much detective, handling. They quite a lot of cases that they were dealing with, and so they weren't getting caught. And now you'll see there's quite a few black serial killers and Hispanic serial killers and Asian serial killers. They're all out there. So it turns out, yeah. And one of the other things that used to happen was that white serial killers used to kill white women, not because they looked like their mother or their sister, like was promoted, but simply because they lived in their neighborhood, because neighborhoods used to be very segregated. So white women were getting killed by locals who lived within a mile, and they were white guys. Black women were getting killed by black serial killers, but again, because the policing wasn't as strong in those areas, weren't getting as much money and funding, they just weren't getting solved. So what the FBI went in is they found all these white serial killers killing white women. And then this theory came up again that they're killing people that look like they're people they hated, their sisters or mothers, whatever crap it was. Now that we have a lot of integrated neighborhoods, interestingly enough, white guys are killing black women and Hispanic women, and black guys are killing white women and Hispanic women. Hispanic guys are killing white women and black women. They don't care. They're not racist. Serial killers hate society in general and like killing women and boys and men and children. So they pick what's available. And since they live in an area, they're going to focus on who they can grab the easiest grab that they can get. They know their area. They're more comfortable zooming around in a little car or wherever they're at. So they'll focus on the neighborhood. They don't care what the race is. Now, are there some trophy girls that sometimes serial killers like? Yes. So let's say they do have some level of choice. They love to go for, first of all, younger, teenagers. Yeah, they like them. Thin and small, easy to grab, easy to manage, easy to drag, easy to put in the back of a car. I've always told women, if you don't get on Ozempic, you could save your life because if you're really obese, they don't choose you because they can't drag you, they can't get your pants off of you, and you don't fit in the trunk. So there's some good things about being overweight, but. So basically, these guys go for what's available, and sometimes a bit trophy-ish. So if you have, a choice between two different women, and one is more the trophy girl, you might go for her. So the FBI got into some very interesting. I don't knock all their earlier research; it's quite fascinating. But one of the things that came out of that was they came up with these more statistical types of. Statistics on serial killers and their behaviors. So they put them in groups, and so when a serial killer crime happened, serial homicide, they come in, they go, if you remember Johnny Carson, if you're old enough, they put the envelope to and go, it's a white guy between the ages of 25 and 35, lives with his mother, drives an old car and has a knife collection and a dog. And you're like, where the hell did you get that from the crime scene? Because I'm looking at the crime scene, I don't see it. So there were these things that what happened was they used statistics and then they added in a thing called guesswork. And then they hid their profiles from the public for the most part. So you never knew whether they were right or they were wrong. Now, one of the interesting ones that came out once was New Orleans serial killer. I forgot his name now. But they said it was a white guy who was antisocial. Turned out to be a black guy who was really social and did like that barbecues, So they were like, and a lot of things you can guess things. Has trouble with women, things like that. Probably isn't a PhD, Now there are rare cases where somebody is completely outside the box, and those will stun everybody. But my whole view on profiling has been that every single determination you make in a profile you should be able to say, this is the evidence that supports this. If you're going to say a person is of a certain race, why? A certain age, why? A certain education level, why? If you can't get that from the crime scene, don't say it. You have to have something in the crime scene that tells you something about that person that's real, not just something you're imagining in your head because, I've been a profiler so long, I melded my mind with a serial killer, and therefore I can just see him do it. Nah, that's garbage. It's all Hollywood shit. So Criminal Minds picked up on that, and what they have is Hollywood shit. Now, one of the things they do is there'll be some serial killer at large in a certain area, and he will be killing by every new moon, which of course is retarded too. So nobody does that. I mean, serial killers kill when generally speaking, most serial killers have a lot of time between their kills. They either they lose their job, they lose their girlfriend, they get booted out of their mother, boots them out of the house, whatever. They get in a bad mood. They go and kill to get their power and control back. The rape is just part of power and control. It's not the reason they're having. A lot of them have sex with other people. It's not like they can't get sex. They just do that because the power and control thing is there. And rape is one way to humiliate and get power and control. And you might as well, if you're going to kill, you might as well rape her, right? Anyway, so you got these guys, and they have a bad turn of their life, and they do that to make themselves feel better. And then they go back into regular life, and maybe a year passes, or 2 years, or 3 years before they do it again. But we focus on the guys that are prolific. There are some prolific serial killers. So Green River, Ted Bundy, they're very busy. So the busy ones get our attention more than the ones that have all this time in between, who we don't even realize are doing anything. So 20 years goes by, 30 years goes by. We either don't catch them, or we catch them and then realize that maybe they killed 12 women, but it's over 30 years. So, yeah. So but in Criminal Minds, it's there's this guy who's killing every month, so we've got to get there to stop him from the next kill. And so the police department calls the FBI, and the FBI jumps on this fancy plane. That never happens, never ever, and goes to the location. First of all, local police departments do not like the FBI. They like their the scientific stuff, DNA, fingerprinting, all that kind of stuff. They like that. They don't want FBI in on their territory, homing in, they're rolling in and they're taking over their cases, embarrassing them. They don't want them there. So they don't call them in. The only time the FBI really ever gets involved in a serial homicide case is if the media, it becomes so bad that they finally have to bring them in just to shut the media up, and all the people, like Long Island serial killer. Finally, the FBI came in and worked on that case. They haven't really solved very many cases. The only case I know that was ongoing that I think they did solve, and I have to do this at some point, is the Atlanta child killing case. But for the most part, they analyze cold cases the same way I would. In other words, years have gone by, and then somebody says, "Hey, can you give a profile on this case?" And whether it's from the police department or some other methodology, they give a profile, and then most of the time, nobody ever knows what that profile is. And that's the way it works. So for the most part, Criminal Minds is nonsense. And the girl back there just going, coming up with all these links and all this stuff. And that doesn't happen. so it's a completely fake profiling stuff. The closest I would come to saying the real way it works would be something like Psych. Psych is pretty good. Death in Paradise. I mean, at least, the detective on the case, who are really, by the way, for the most part, detectives are profilers in their own right. They're the ones doing the analysis of the case in the first 48. Now, mind you, they don't get training, which is what I would like to see happen, but they're actually analyzing the case. Again, they need more training to do it better, but they're there. So, if you look at Death in Paradise, and, of course, the cases are always ridiculously complicated, and then the detective of the whatever season it is goes, wow, what I figured out was he looks at all the evidence and figures out all these little details, and that leads him to knowing who committed the case. At least that's closer to the theory of how it works. I'll go to some of your comments now. Let's see. I do want to give a comment on this advice. What advice, forensic? Let me check on the comments on the profile. I'll go back to that. So many questions. We'll be here all night. We might. Let's see. Rats rule says rats are great. I agree. Rats are really nice pets. Let's see. MGM says FBI profiles never solve any case, but try to frame many innocent people. I don't know if that's that. I won't go that far, but I just don't have a great love for their methodology. Now, that's the official methodology. Are there FBI profilers who use my method, my sort of methodology. Now, this gets real confusing, and I don't even waste your time being overly confused because I still even can't understand it. Inductive profiling is what I believe the FBI uses. I use deductive profiling. I have seen those two terms be switched recently, and I can't understand what the hell happened there. But in my opinion, inductive was using a lot of the statistics and imagination crap, and deductive was deducing from the evidence that existed, like Sherlock Holmes. Um, uh, so there are FBI profilers who do a good job, not because they're just good profilers in their own right, not following the methodology. So that the FBI has promoted for all these years and needs to go away. It really does, because it had really tarnished the profiling field. People say, well, profiling is just fake stuff. It's just some psychic crap. And it's because it's not honest. It's not open. And if you want to be honest and open and show how this can be done, you should be able to show how this can be done. And the other thing that bothers me is that these people ask me, I want to be a profiler. There are only like 9 profilers in the FBI working for the behavioral science unit. At least the last number I know. Very few independent profilers because there's no work in the field. Because up till now, almost no police department will hire a criminal profiler because, again, they don't want an outside profiler coming in. They are not hiring profilers to work within their department, especially big departments could have a criminal profiler on staff. I would love to work with a major police department and just be available anytime the detectives go out. Just bring me back the crime scene photos and your police reports and the sketches. Leave them with me. While you're out interviewing everybody, I will just go through all this stuff, and you can walk back in and say, what do you got? I love that. That's not being done. So in reality, profiler, there's very little work. And one of the reasons there's so little work is profilers do not want other profilers in the field. They don't want to train profilers like you train doctors and lawyers and teachers. And to me, if you can't train people, if you have to have this melding of the minds with the serial killers, which is ridiculous. If you're melding minds with a serial killer, you got psychological problems and you drink too much. So don't do that. You can understand serial killers. We don't need to be melding your mind. And any profile that says that they have done that and then they have psychological problems already has psychological problems. But we should be able to train people just like you do in any field, because it should be scientific. So I shouldn't be, oh my God, Pat Brown, the only profiler out there. No, there should be profilers in every police department. Every detective should be trained as profilers. And that's my hope for the future. So yeah, And as far as the forensics field go, if you're going into anything connected to this, if you want to be a true profiler in this day and age, you have to join the police department and become a detective. So my daughter joined the police department, and she became a detective after about, 8-10 years, somewhere in there. She became first she worked with child abuse, then she worked with sex crimes, and she became homicide, and now at 20 years, she's got rolled into domestic just because she just wants to have more time with her family. And she could retire, but she's in domestic now because it's a lot easier than being available for homicide 24/7. But she did what I would do because she profiled crimes. That's what she did. That's what all detectives have to do. Again, they don't get training. That's the biggest problem. You go from street to be a detective. You drink with the right people. You become a detective. You might be, hopefully they pick you because you're smart too and really good at work, but you don't get training. You go to police academy to become a police officer, but you don't go to at least a few months of profiling and detective academy. You don't do that. You just roll in and you learn on the job. And it's unfortunate because they should at least get some solid practical profiling training. I'm going to do a third channel, which is going to be practical profiling for police detectives, so they can listen to it and watch it in their cruiser while they're drinking coffee. They can learn something. It's very unfortunate that there isn't actual training. But that's, if you wanted to actually do profiling work, really do it, you'd have to be a detective. And if you want it otherwise, you could go into the FBI, you could become an agent, you might get to become a profiler, but you might never get to become a profiler. You could do 20, 30 years as an FBI agent and never be a profiler. Because that's just a very small field. and only a few people ever get into it for whatever reasons. Other than that, you could be an independent profiler, and those are a lot of people are like me. A lot of people are professors who've gone through, studied criminal justice psychology, or maybe there's few. I started the first criminal profiling certificate program in this country. I saw recently there was another one, but it follows the FBI stuff, so I'm not fond of it, so I won't mention it. But you can go through all this training, and you can set up your own agency, and you probably are still going to make your money because you're like work for a university or something, and you do everything else pro bono because nobody pays. That's the way it works. Other than that, you can get into forensics. Yeah, you can get into crime scene or any kind of crime, kind of hands-on work with fingerprinting or ballistics or forensics, that kind of work, lab work, and all that kind of stuff. But that's not profiling. But there are aspects of it in like ballistics, depending where your interest lies. So, see what else you have to say here. I have not. I don't want. Somebody said got a lot of outrageous stories. Well, here's the problem: when you're writing a mystery novel or whatever, the tendency is to be outrageous because, for the most part, crimes aren't as outrageous as people think they are. Sometimes they're hard to solve because you just don't know who did it. Because let's say you've got a scene and somebody gets murdered and they set a fire, and then the firefighters come in and they drown the whole freaking scene, and you're left with, okay, where was the knife? Well, the knife just flew out the door when the hose came in, and and things get very confusing. So it's hard to figure out what happened. Maybe there's no DNA left, there's no fingerprints left. It's a stranger homicide. Yeah, you can look at these serial homicides. You say, what? Oh, look, there's a woman who's raped and left naked in a bush. Who do you think did it? Well, a serial killer. Okay, what about that guy? I don't know. He likes to rape and kill women. I mean, how much information do you have? And you have to really. Sometimes you can get more information depending on the footprint or whether the location that's at is it way far away from anything, or that they would have to have some access to that location, like a hiking trail, or are we talking it's near a trailhead or it's near a parking lot? There's things you can start gathering, but that doesn't make usually it doesn't make good mystery stories. It doesn't really. So, oh, this is the wrong one. I was looking behind me now. I was like, why do I have this one up now? But if you do want to read Only the Truth, is my mystery story. It's $2.99, pretty much every place, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Smashwords, and that is a psychological mystery story. So that I didn't know that was up there because I told you I clicked the wrong thing when I went back. Now I'm going to see if I can find whatever happened to it. This is crazy. This is so weird. I'm trying to figure out how. How about this one? Yeah, we'll do this one for now. This is the younger me. This is the older me. But anyway, so let's say talk about John Douglas. Okay. John Douglas is not one of my favorite characters. He obviously made a fortune off of becoming the go-to person for all of the media, television. He blows up a lot of stories, and he's one that says the melding of the mind like drove him nuts, and I'm like, and he had all these issues. I'm like, get out of here. Yeah, Robert Ressler is another one of the originals. I like Robert Ressler. He has a couple books that put out in the market. I like him a lot better. So that's just a personal thing. This is not a profiling question. Maybe it is. If you had a top choice of companies' products, would you want to work with a sponsor? I have not chosen to. I have not chosen to have anybody sponsor my channel, nor have I promoted any products. I'm very picky about that. If I don't believe in it, I won't promote it. I just won't. I can't do it. It's like I think Lay's potato chips asked me. I'm like, yeah, eat these. They're unhealthy for you. So I said no. I've gotten a whole bunch of crappy stuff that I just no way I'm going to promote it. So I don't know. I do like Sunbasket. Sunbasket is one of those meal things where they send the box to your house. It's got the different meals in it. You cook it yourself, but all the ingredients there and a great recipe. You just go online. You go, oh, I want this Indian one, and oh, this one looks good. It's from Thailand, and this one's from Brazil. And then you click on them, and then they show up at your house. You don't have to go and do any shopping. And then the food is fresh. So you got all the vegetables and all, but they put these incredible sauces in. Recipes are great. It takes you 15, 20 minutes. You make your dinner. It's fresh. And I don't have to go shopping. So I do use Sunbasket. Are you listening, Sunbasket? I would, I would do Sunbasket. I think it's the only one so far, and they haven't taken me up on it. So, all I can say about the dentist and his wife is that it appears that it's somebody who knows them. That was no home invasion. So I would say it's a personal thing. And there's supposedly some ex-husband in the picture, I think, ex-husband, ex-boyfriend of the wife. Yeah, I think it's a personal thing. I can't see that it's anything else. So really sad. Nice of me to feed the cat. Most people don't like stray cats. Well, what really happened with that cat was that my cat, Ziggy, who I'd had for over a decade and a half, he died, and I didn't have any cats anymore. And I thought, well, I'm going to be traveling, like coming here to Hawaii, and I'm like, I hate winter, so I want to get away in winter. So I'm like, I'm not going to get any more pets. But one day, my daughter's cat next door, his little black cat, came around, and for some reason, she came in my house, and I've never had her do that. She usually doesn't do that. So I had some fish in the freezer, so I unfroze it, put some fish down for her, and I left. There's a cat door. The cat door was open, so I figured she finished that, and then she went out the cat door. And I thought, well, maybe I'll put down another piece of fish, and she'll come back in, and maybe she could come and visit me. It's not my cat, it's my daughter's cat, but I, get a little. Maybe she'll come and sit on my lap. So I was doing an actual show, and I looked over, and I see this big brown cat. I'm like, that is not my daughter's cat. And this turned out to be a feral cat, and I got cat food. I started feeding it, and I kept moving the bowl further and further away from the cat door till it was in my bedroom door. And then he would eat. He would come in there crawling on the ground, and he'd eat. I would sit in bed and freeze because if I moved my finger, he would race off and he'd bolt. And but eventually, after 2 years, he will now come in my bedroom. I can get out of my bed, sit on the floor, put the cat food bowl in my lap, and he will come and stand in my lap and eat the food out of the bowl. No, I still can't touch him. If I try to touch him, he'll hiss at me. So he's now been coming for 2 years, and now he's kind of like, I say, it's not my cat, but he thinks he's my cat, although I don't think he cares about me, but he's, that's how it all happened. Oh, thank you, Dee Dee, for a surf lesson. Yeah, that's not happening, but I will put it to good use for this channel. How about that? I'm not surfing. I'm too chicken. I like my water flat, And I found there's a couple places near where I'm living where I can walk down and just swim around like this, like a little lagoon. Yeah, I'm not big on waves. The super chat is busy today. This is just turning out very nice. Yes. Let's see what other questions you have. Oh, I'm not going to go for that. Oh yeah, there's no, they're not the result of a serial killer. And this is just, could there be one or two that a serial killer could have killed? Sure. But this whole crap about, they're going about, if you keep bringing up the stupid smiley face killer thing, and I have to say I'm a little bit at fault for that, because back when, let's see, Chris Jenkins ended up in the Mississippi River in Minnesota, and the Jenkins family contacted me, and I was working on that case with the PI was working on it. And both of us were suspicious that he actually did not jump off the bridge like they said he did and commit suicide. We actually believed that he was likely murdered. And then I got a contact from another police department next state, and they said, "Can you check on this guy? Because he says he wants to be the next Jeffrey Dahmer." And so I went on this site called menunderwater.com, and I posted as a 15-year-old. and he drowned me. I don't know how many times. Anyway, I proved to the police that he was a sick-minded fellow, and he also happened to live right near that bridge in Minneapolis. And so the question came down to, could he have killed Chris Jenkins because he wanted to drown young men? But Chris, so I looked at it, I said, well, so I think I got contacted by some media. And they said, could that guy that you're looking into be a serial killer? I said, well, he wants to be a serial killer. Could he have killed Chris Jenkins? Well, he could have. I don't have any proof that he was, connected in any way, even though he lived close by. And it ended up it ended up somewhere, I forgot, some magazine. And then after that, these two detectives, retired detectives out of New York, whose names I won't give because I think they're idiots, and I think they're just in for publicity, and they wanted their television show or a book, I don't know what. They started claiming all these men who ended up in the water, college men, ended up in the water in Wisconsin, Minnesota, were all being killed by the smiley face killer gang. And the smiley face killers would kill a guy, and then they paint a smiley face nearby. Of course, in college towns, you get a lot of smiley faces painted all over the place. I mean, it's ridiculous. And all of these guys who ended up in the drink had no signs of abuse of any sort. They weren't beaten. They weren't shot. They weren't stabbed. They were extremely drunk and or drugged, not drugged, but had drugs in them. So they fell in the water. So so now these guys promoted that any place in the entire country that young men or women, mostly young men, ended up in the water, it was because the smiley face killer gang was after them. This is total nonsense. So this, of course, is now, down in Texas, was it the smiley face killer gang? No, it's called homeless people who are doing too much drugs, fentanyl, meth, whatever they're doing. They're in very bad shape, and alcohol. You got young men coming out of bars who are trash drunk. And the greatest example I have of this is the one in Maryland, where a young woman ended up in the water outside Baltimore, and she was on her 30th birthday. I think somewhere around 30 years old, 30, 32, somewhere. She went out with her friends drinking. She was walking back. They all say, hey, good night. And she was walking back to her car. She was going to meet her family the next day. My children knew who she was. They were not close friends, but they knew her. And she ended up never making it to a car. Her purse was found on the ground, and she was found in the water at Fells Point, drowned. And I thought it was somebody attacked her, maybe trying to grab her purse, maybe trying to rape her. She ended up in the water. So I thought it looked like a homicide. It turned out it was not. And the only reason we know it was not was because there was actually a camera, and the video camera showed the girl walking along like this, near the water, and fell in. And if it had not been for that camera, that video of her, we would be hearing about the smiley face killers in Baltimore, and her parents would be enraged at the police for not finding the guy who killed their daughter. Now, mind you, it's easy to push somebody in the water, so theoretically, I guess you could do it. But for the most part, they're ending up in the water through, unfortunately, choices that they made which weren't healthy. And a lot of people, if you look at the Bayou victims, a good portion of them are homeless. And that's one of the reasons you don't see families like gathering out there trying to say, they were doing well in life. No, they weren't. They weren't doing well in life. And they were probably homeless and had a lot of drugs in the system. And so, unfortunately, it's the way it goes. It's sad. Let's see. Jenna says, I'm sorry I'm late. That's okay. Do you have anything significant to say about the rise in fetal abduction cases and the people who commit these crimes? Oh, okay. That is one of the weirdest things. I don't know if there's a rise in it, but you have to have one psychopathic. Usually it's a psychopathic female. She pretends she's pregnant because she's trying to keep some dude, or something like that. Maybe she does want a baby, and she decides that one of the problems when you kidnap babies is that, first of all, if you kidnap them out of a hospital, that's tricky. It's been done, but it's tricky. You can kidnap them out of a park. It's a little bit easier. Some people have made friends with people who are pregnant, through the internet, like a women's group or something. And then what they do is they go over there, and when the woman is like 9 months ish, their concept is that they will kill her and quickly cut open, just give her a C-section and pull the baby out and run off with the baby. And then they'll show up back at their house and go, look, honey, while you were like out of town for a week, I went and had the baby. Here it is. And usually they get caught. I mean, rarely do they get away with it, because obviously somebody is dead without a baby in them. And they're usually not that good at doing it. But that's a very psychopathic thing, that they want to have what they cannot have. Although, you're like, well, maybe they can't get pregnant, and they're just pretending they can get pregnant. It's from individual to individual. It's kind of complicated as to what brought them to that point. But when you're a psychopath like that, you're pretty much willing to do things that most people wouldn't do. So yeah, creepy. Oh God, no. Oh, first of all, the DSM-5, which I dislike intensely. Recently, I did a thing on Nick Reiner, and I said he likely is a psychopath, and I got attacked by a bunch of people who said, but psychopathy is not a diagnosis in the DSM-5. Well, it used to be years ago, but they changed it to antisocial personality disorder, because psychopathy indicates a condition in which you can't be treated. And, that doesn't bode well for when you have a practice and you're trying to make money off of that practice. Or somebody brings a kid and you say, well, that little kid's a psycho. Parents don't like to hear that. So they changed it to antisocial personality disorder, which pretty much is the same thing. But what they did was they focused on behavior instead of a trait. So in other words, instead of saying you are a narcissistic, grandiose thinking person who lacks in empathy, those are traits, you say they behave in these ways. And you can't change traits, but you can change behaviors, you see. So therefore it gives you something to work with, although it never seems to be very successful. So psychopathy is not in the DSM-5. So serial killers clearly are psychopaths, in my opinion, and they're not going to be listed there. And sometimes, unfortunately, there are idiots out there who think that you can cure a psychopath. He just goes to prison for 10 years or goes to mental institution for 10 years and gets some therapy and learns how to be empathetic. No, he learns how to fake being empathetic so he can get past the parole board. And then he goes out and kills again if they let him out, because he's a psychopath and a serial killer. And by the way, psychopathy and sociopathy, same damn thing. This is one of these academic things people want to argue about too. I was like, oh no, a sociopath is, which one is it? I always get confused. One is born and one is made, and one is smarter and one is not as smart. No, it's just a bunch of labels you're throwing. Basically, it's the same thing. If you go look at Robert Hare's checklist, you can just put that into Google, Robert Hare's psychopathy checklist. Basically, you got all the information you need right there. And my simple way of putting it is this. A psychopath thinks you're either useful or you're in the way. And he will use you, or he will abuse you, or he will use you, or he'll get rid of you. That's it. Because he has zero empathy. It's always about him. Doesn't care about other human beings. And he will do whatever he feels like it. These are pathological liars as well. So, you took Nick Reiner, and in my opinion, he's schizophrenia. That they threw that out there in the last month. As soon as he got his defense attorney, and so suddenly he's schizophrenic. Yeah, sure. I doubt it. So yeah. Connie, hi. You seem more common sense in your take rather than trying to make it too mysterious and kind of like you just don't understand it. Yeah. One of the problems I've always had with certain levels of professionalism is the desire for them, a professional, to make it seem like they have such incredible knowledge and skill and experience that they're up here and you guys are way down here and you couldn't possibly understand what's up here. So they become the gods of profile and the gods of history, the gods of whatever. And you're down here going, okay, I should just believe you because you're just that brilliant. And my thing again is if you can't teach a person what you're thinking, if you can't explain it, and if you can't give evidence for it, then it's garbage. And you're just making it up. And you're just pretending to be something that you're not because you may have education, skill, experience, all this. I believe I do. But I also believe that anybody can learn when I have learned. I would just may have been around longer to learn it. So don't. It's again. Why are there only so few profiles? Why are there so many doctors? What if we only had 9 doctors? Well, none of you can learn how to be a doctor. It's okay. What? It's stupid. But yeah, it's a way to have people be in awe of you and I like the practical issues for me. I've always been a very practical person. I believe if it's not practical, it's not useful. Then it becomes just too difficult and too hard to put to use. So I like to make it practical. That's why when I put my 3rd channel out there, it's called it'll be practical profiling for detectives. Because, for example, when I talk about psychopaths to detectives, they really freaking don't need to know everything some psychologist, psychiatrist has studied about how psychopaths develop. They don't need to know that. What you need to know is when you're interviewing somebody, do you recognize that they might be a psychopath? Do you look at their recent history and say, you seem very like a psychopath? You have to be in a very short period of time, know who you're dealing with so you can do your job. You don't have time to go back do 5 years worth of some, very academic, look at the academia thing, it's just not practical in my opinion. And I am very evidence-based. So if it's not evidence-based to me, it's not practical. So if you want to go fry an egg, the evidence would be, you want to fry the egg, you better put butter in the pan or some olive oil, or you can't fry an egg. It's that simple. Let's see. Yeah, okay. I just heard about this. I heard about somebody who did not particularly like it. Dr. Ann Burgess was one of the originals with the FBI, and she's very, very psychologically minded. And I say that meaning that she gets the depths, getting into the depths of the mind of psychopaths and serial killers. And I've seen enough. I'm just not that impressed by psychopaths and serial killers. They're very mundane to me. They're not that amazing. I don't know. I know they do things that the rest of us wouldn't do, but they're not that unusual in the sense that the thinking pattern is pretty much understandable if you understand psychopaths in general. So that's why I'm not like, I don't get all, oh my God, it's so fascinating. I'm not fascinated. I'm just not fascinated. And sometimes I think, well, that guy's pretty horrifying. Horrifying in the sense that the methods he chose were pretty brutal. But if you looked, I have seen enough stuff. I have seen, what's his name? I forgot his name now. Somebody tell me the name. The guy in Canada who brought home, brought home a guy to his bed and then chopped him up. And they finally caught up with him. I forgot his name now. But I actually saw the video that he did of him doing it. Somebody tell me what his name is. Somebody who's Canadian. Roll that name out for me. It was pretty appalling. I have also watched the Mexican cartel chop women into pieces. I've also watched ISIS saw heads off of people. Luca, yeah, that guy, Luca Magnotta, yeah, him. Not Bruce McArthur, no. Luca Magnotta. Thank you very much. Yeah, him. I have seen these things. I wouldn't recommend you see these things. Okay, I did see them. Gruesome, and I've also saw the perfectly happy look on the faces of the people doing the killing. because that's what a psychopath can do, because they don't care about a human in front of them. They delight off of the suffering and humiliation of other human beings. Once you understand that, you understand, in general, psychopaths. Now, not all psychopaths are violent. Now, all serial killers are psychopaths, but not all psychopaths are serial killers. Not all psychopaths are violent. They have other ways of manipulating people and taking advantage of them. And so there is that. But but in general, their thinking is the same. The desire for power and control by any methodology that they can get it. And depending on what their life is, and sometimes a lot has to do with whether they were raised with education, whether they were raised with in severe poverty, whether they had horrible parents or just a slight issue in the family. I mean, there's all kinds of things that lead them into how they're going to get, they're psychopaths, but how they're going to express the psychopathy will change depending on what thrills them and where they get their kicks out of, essentially. So and you can step away from psychopathy for a minute and think about regular human beings. And I use this as an example simply because it's something we could somewhat all relate to. So, for example, there are most people, adults, like to have sex. The What would seem to be the healthiest version of having sex would be to have a person that you loved, that you make love to, and they make love to you, and you want to make sure that they're happy, and that you please them, and that they will be happy to please you in a beautiful way. And then you got people who want to tie up their sex partner and whip them and bite them and stuff, and that gets them excited. And some people are willing to have that be done to them. I would say these are not healthy things, but yet there are human beings who do these things. So there's all these levels of things that people get interested in, and the levels they need of power and control, depending on where they come from and what they've experienced in life and what they've been taught. That part's really complicated as far as where they end up. But as far as the law goes, and I point this out oftentimes, my job isn't to get into the minds of serial killers and to be fascinated by the way they think. That's not me. My thing is about analyzing evidence that would help criminals get caught, especially serial killers, especially any kind of homicide. Because that's another thing about profiling. People think, oh, profilers just do serial killer stuff. It's not true. Now, mind you, I do have a book called Killing for Sport, which is about serial killers. And this is also about serial killers. However, there's actually, and psychopaths, this book has some serial killer crimes and some non-serial killer crimes. I do a lot of my analysis has been crimes which are not serial killer crimes. The one in South Carolina was a mass murder. I've analyzed crimes that it's definitely either a husband or a boyfriend or father committed the crime. So yeah, a lot of people, known people, not stranger crimes. So it's really been a mix of that. Although, like Anderson Carter, the Anderson Carter case that I worked on, that was a serial killer, Bobby Joe Leonard. And it wasn't known to be a serial killer at the time. They thought it was her fiance, and that's a really crazy case. And definitely was not her fiance. So it's a poor fiance. 20 years later, got arrested for supposedly hiring the serial killer, which was the most ludicrous thing ever. But anyway, crazy story. Go check me out, Anderson Carter case. But so sometimes, yes, it turned out to be a serial killer, but it isn't always a serial killer. So profiling isn't about just profiling serial killers. It's about should be profiling the evidence that will lead you to determine the best leads, and also the best avenues of investigation and who might have committed the crime, depending on who it might be. Let's see. Let me go back up now. Oh, let's see. I want to see what you say, Lisa. Much higher proportion. Wait a minute. You said more. Let me go back up here. Roughly 1% of the U.S. population exhibits high levels of psychopathic traits. Oh, I think it's quite higher than that. Though estimates vary, with some sources finding just under 1% of men and lower percentages for women. Okay. While a much higher proportion, 15 to 25%, is found in prison populations. That's true, including it's a spectrum disorder. Okay. And higher percentages, close to 30%, show some psychopathic traits. And my highest recommendation is always to read Inside the Criminal Mind by Dr. Stanton Samanow. I usually hold up the book, but I'm in Hawaii. I didn't bring your books with me. Dr. Stanton Samanow is one of my absolute favorite human beings. And he was a psychologist who worked at St. Elizabeth's Hospital for the criminally insane in Washington, D.C. And he came in thinking he was going to treat these people, and he went, he found out how many were psychopathic. He's like, yeah, that's not happening. So yes, in the criminal population, there's a higher level of psychopathy because to commit crimes, you have to have a disregard for other human beings and for the law. And I'm always amazed at how people brush these things off. It's like, oh, it's no big deal. He just, all he did was burglarize something. Who goes in and burglarizes somebody's house? I mean, who does that? I mean, I couldn't imagine crawling in somebody's window and stealing their stuff. Get out of here. I'm not doing that. Oh, he just robbed somebody. He pulled a gun out, pointed at this terrified person and said, give me your stuff. Who does that? And we're not talking about people who are starving. We're talking about people who do this because they like doing this, because they don't care about other human beings. They don't care what they do to them. They don't care about the trauma they cause. And then they like getting over on them. That's what psychopathy is about. It's about getting over on people. I win, you lose. And it isn't about, I need bread for my children. Most people in prison will tell you that's not why they're in prison. They weren't stealing bread for their children. As a matter of fact, they can't remember who the children are. The last time they saw them was a year ago. And they didn't pay child support. But they're in prison for whatever crime they just committed. So there's a high level of psychopathy in prison. As far as the female thing goes, really good point. There are a lot of female psychopaths, but they are not recognized by many as being psychopaths. Especially like when we talk about Munchausen syndrome by proxy. Munchausen syndrome and Munchausen syndrome by proxy. Two things that are highly misunderstood. Munchausen syndrome is not a condition. It's a behavior of a psychopath, mostly female psychopaths, but it can be male too, but mostly female psychopaths. And it is an attention-getting thing. You do things to yourself, harm yourself, or claim that you have medical conditions you don't have, or claim you've been raped in order to get attention. That's Munchausen syndrome. Munchausen syndrome by proxy is when you hurt others, usually babies, your own children, even killing your own children one after the other, or sometimes elderly in nursing homes. That seems to be popular, to get attention. Either, oh my God, you're caring for that person, they died, how sad, or sometimes you just want to just make them like look almost die, and then the alarm sounds and you're saving them. All kinds of methodology. You take your kid, Gypsy, we talked about her. Her mother just kept taking her to the doctors and torturing her because she got a kick out of having this sick child. And that's how she got her attention, because having a normal child is kind of boring, but having a sick kid, that's cool. A lot of women who go in, that's why when people say, oh, women never lie about being raped. Oh, yeah, they do. And sadly, because there are some women who lie about being raped, it affects the women who have been raped. But there are women who go to the police and claim they've been raped who haven't been raped because they want attention. They want to get over on somebody. They want to win when somebody else loses. So female psychopaths are out there. They're just not as recognized. And even when you got somebody like Sherry Papini, who goes to the extent of faking her own kidnapping, and she finally gets caught. She basically admits most of it. And now she went to prison. She's out. How many people call her a psychopath? Very quiet about that, aren't we? We don't want to call her a psychopath. That's a psychopath. Absolutely 100% a psychopath. Thank you very much, Cheryl. What do I got to put this on the screen? What the heck? No, I can't do it that way. Hold on a second. I never learned how to use this thing terribly properly. This is from, thank you, Diana. That's very sweet. Thank you. Aw, I very much appreciate it. I tell you, it keeps this channel going. It really does. And I don't do too many open lives, so I don't have this nice gift giving like this very often. There we go. Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you so much. Cheryl's been around for a long time. Thank you, Cheryl. I appreciate it. Very, very nice of you. Um, oh, Mel. There you go. I would have no problem calling her a psychopath. Yeah. She went and shot her own daughter. What a lovely human being. Yeah, definitely a psychopath. Although by the time it gets to court, her lawyer, if she gets a good one, will claim that she's either schizophrenic, she didn't know what she was doing, or God knows what kind of nonsense they will come up with. um, talk to birds. You talk to birds. Thanks, Pat, for calling a psychopath a psychopath. It's you will notice that almost nobody does that. They rarely say that in the media. The psychologists, psychiatrists won't say it. Everybody's like terrified of saying that. And a lot of it's because you can't diagnose a person as a psychopath because you're not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, and you haven't, or if you are, you have to say, like I think Dr. Grandi has said, I have not been able to spend time. I have not had them where I've been able to diagnose them. In other words, you have to give this qualification so that you don't get your butt in trouble, essentially. So, and it's just, but sometimes you can just call a psychopath. If you can't call a serial killer psychopath, you got a problem. What the hell else are they? What are you going to call them? I mean, it's like, oh, you killed 20 women, but you're not a psychopath. Okay. Penelope says, I was thinking they should make a film of past life starring Rhea Seehorn. I don't know who Rhea Seehorn is. She could capture the coolness of spirit Pat has. That's very nice. Does she look better than me? Because I hope so. It might have to be a series. I don't know that my life is so amazing. I mean, I try to enjoy my life as much as possible. So one of the questions I will answer here that nobody's asked is, when you're a profiler or a detective, you work in a situation where you're dealing with a lot of negative things, evil things, sad things. What do you do to maintain your sanity? And this is very important. My daughter, when she was working child abuse, she would only watch Walt Disney movies. I mean, she was like, she could not watch anything else. She had to watch videos of children being abused. Nobody wants to have to do that. Thank God, that is one thing I haven't seen. I've seen the other murder stuff, but I have never had to see that, and I'm thankful. I've read all the reports, I've seen photos, but I never had to see videos of that, and my daughter did. So she would watch, just for a long time, she just watched Walt Disney. And so my whole view on this, and this is true for people watching crime stuff in general, because we have crime, murder stuff has overwhelmed media. It has overwhelmed the news. It has overwhelmed almost every channel. Even Oxygen, which used to be for women to help women, is now full of crime crap. And it's all murder crap. It's not minor crimes, not like shoplifting. It's all murder. And people are living in a world of just murder constantly coming into their heads. And I don't watch any of that crap for the most part. The only things I do like to watch are the things like Death in Paradise, because they knock the person off really quickly. And then it's all about the camaraderie of the team working together and the brilliant detective figuring it out. I'm good with this kind of cozy things. So I've watched quite a few of those kind of things just because they make me happy. I can sit there happily and watch. I also like Magnum PI, the new one, and because it's in Hawaii, and then it's a fun thing, and all the people are like they become your friends. That's cool. But the murder stuff or the stuff is very minimal. So most of it is about solving the crime and the camaraderie. But I don't like shows which are just gory and vicious. I don't want to see people being brutally murdered. I don't want to see them suffering. That kind of stuff. I have no interest in that. I don't watch any of that stuff. I mean, I see it in my work, but I don't watch it. And then I always recommend people, first of all, cut down how much of that garbage you watch and watch other stuff that's fun. Watch comedies, watch good stuff that makes you feel happy, and cut down on the news too, because that'll do you in. And then add to your life things that are beautiful. Like I do pastel I do pastel painting. That's one of the things I've gotten into is pastel painting. I play table tennis. I arrived here in Hawaii. I found the table tennis club. I've already got my bus pass for seniors, and I jumped on the bus and went down to the table tennis club, and I played there, and I got a coach now, and so I'm taking some coaching from him. I'm finding the pickleball courts. I'm going to tomorrow night. I'm going to Scrabble because I play tournament Scrabble, so I'm going to Scrabble Club here in Honolulu. I've been down to the beach. I've taken walks. I'll go to the zoo. I'll do all these things. And when I'm home, I take Spanish. I go to art classes. I get together with my friends and have lunch and just chit chat, and I get together with my family and my granddaughter. I travel. I do all of these things because life should be about good stuff for the most part. I mean, if you're going to be interested in crime and this kind of thing, at least get it in perspective that there's a lot of good people out there and there's a lot of great things to be done. You don't always have to be soaked in blood, which is kind of sad, to be there and all of that. Thank you very much. SHSS. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. So, your name is Heidi. Sorry, I was looking at the green thing on top. Thank you for your donation to the channel. My name is Heidi. What are your thoughts on the recent news of the Zodiac and Black Dahlia killers being the same person? Love your channel. Yeah. Did you hear my snort? Yeah. Okay. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I mean, there was another one recently too, where the Black Dahlia killer was also supposed to be some guy who killed a woman, I think in Ohio, in her home, like 6 years prior. And the guy's got this big long book, and he's done all this connecting of dots. And this is how you do it. You get all these dots, and you just find ways to connect the little suckers. And then people go, "Oh my God, you're brilliant! You figured it out." No, I didn't. That's nonsense. And this is nonsense too. Black Dahlia guy is not the Zodiac killer. I mean, two different MOs, has nothing to do with each other. But if you look long enough, you can find a coincidence or two that you can then string together and try to make a book out of it. So that's what they do. And you got to be very careful about this kind of junk. The Jack the Ripper thing too. Guy, we've got DNA. No, you don't have DNA that proves that Jack the Ripper is. It's nonsense. So some people. First of all, I have analyzed. You can see my analysis on Jack the Ripper and Black Dahlia and Zodiac. I've done all three. I've done videos on all three of those. Now, Jack the Ripper, I have a specific suspect I think is the best choice, and I do also have that for Black Dahlia. And Jack the Zodiac, I think I have a vague better choice. But I tell you why I came up with these conclusions, and these will be where I would be looking. If I were working the case in the day and age where you could work the case, I might say, hey, this look this direction. But in no way will I, say this is absolute and then write a book of, spend years writing a book coming up with so much garbage. And what they do is they overwhelm you with information so that you think, well, my God, they must know what they're talking about. So much information, I just saw something else come by. I was trying to find it. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? I saw it. Now I can't find it. Yeah. I hate it when I lose things. I don't know. Did I say thank you already? I can't, Diana. I saw something flash up there, and I might have missed it, but thank you so much. If I said thank you before, I'll say thank you again. I really appreciate it. So who's the Bruce guy? Hold on a second. Looking for this one. What? What? Hold on a second. Who was it? Oh, Handyman. Handyman. Okay. This is something I pointed out. Number one jobs for serial killers is security and handyman. And both of them are easy jobs to get, especially if you're not armed security. So you can just get a job really quickly if you're, it's just, if you breathe, you can get a job in security. And of course, it gives you power and control too, because sometimes you get a uniform, you get to walk around like this. Handyman, simple fact is you can hire, you can put up little ads, you can knock on doors and get work when a company won't hire you because of your background. And I hired a handyman. There's a gutter guy. I needed my gutters fixed, and it was Fred's. Fred's Gutter Company, I think it was called. His real name wasn't Fred. I found it. But anyway, he came out and checked my gutters and gave me a great price. And then he said, "What work do you do?" And I said, "Oh, I'm a criminal profile." And he goes, "Oh, I just got out of the Virginia penitentiary." I'm like, "What were you in there for?" "Murder one." It's like, "Oh, that's nice." So I hired him because he was cheap, and so he did fix my gutters. And I went up one day. We're at the store guy some stuff, and he takes out his license and he looks over at me. I said, "You got a problem?" And I said his real name, and he goes, "Oh, dang." I said, "Look, I'm a criminal profile, you know." But anyway, yeah, it was. Don't hire him. It might not be safe. Might not be safe. Don't do that. Let's see. Let's see. Zodiac's a compulsive liar. Well, yeah. And so are sometimes are people who write books about them as well. Oh, you love Death in Paradise? Red Dwarf. I'm sure I don't know that one. No, I'll have to check that one out. Red Dwarf. Ah, I'm a tropics lover, so that's one of the reasons I like Death in Paradise is because I get to go to a nice, pretty place with palm trees and yeah, and then somebody dies, and then I get the rest of it. So it's just peaceful for me to watch. It's weird to say that's peaceful, but it is. It's peaceful. I don't know who that is. I'll try to find out who that is. Antisocial personality disorder. It's another name for psychopathy. That's my opinion. It's a toned down name for psychopathy, where a lot of the traits and behaviors are that of a psychopath, but we don't want to call them that. So that's how they do that. Thank you. Hi, Ben. Been a while. That's Jack the Ripper video is one of my favorites. Thank you. Along with Cleopatra and Madeline McCann. Yeah, Cleopatra was actually one of my favorite things to do. I have a 10-part series on the murder of Cleopatra. I did a Discovery Channel documentary on that years ago, and I got rid of the snake. It's interesting. I went over, analyzed the evidence, and there's just no evidence a snake killed her. And up until the point I did that documentary, every single historian said that she died by a snake bite. Every one of them, 2,000 years. And I kind of like, why are these historians saying this without analyzing the evidence? But they were just repeating what's always been said. And so after I did that, all the historians now say she wasn't killed by a snake, but not one of them mentions me. I got left out because I'm not an academic. I wasn't a historian, and I wasn't an Egyptologist. And there we go with the professional issues. And you can't say that because you're not. But yeah, they say that now, but they just left me out. And so I went back to Egypt, and because I believe she was murdered. I don't believe she took her life. I went back to Egypt, and I studied all of the architecture and the Nile inundations. I studied the history of the Romans and the Egyptians. I studied naval warfare, shipbuilding. God knows what I studied. I studied for a lot of everything I could get my hands on. And I put together what I think happened in her life and in her death. And I found so much. The story about Cleopatra is so ridiculous. I mean, talk about ridiculous. It's mostly written by Plutarch, who was a Dan Brown of his time. And the things he wrote were so stupid. And I'm like, how did historians read this and not go, that couldn't have happened that way? That's just nonsense. But they did. So I went through the history. And interesting enough, after I put the book out, if you go to Amazon and check the book, I just see these one-star reviews and said Pat Brown didn't do any research. And I've got this huge biography, and I went back to Egypt to do my research with historians and Egyptologists. I'm like, what are they talking about? I didn't do any research, and but they don't like what I have to say because I blew up the stories that have been told for all these years by the historians and academics. So I'm not one of them, and not welcome in the club. So a lot of it's insults, and but I backed everything the way I do with everything. If I said something, I backed it with evidence. This is why I think this happened. This is what happened at the Battle of Actium, because here's where the ships were positioned. This is what happened. it's backed by evidence, supported by evidence. You could look at my evidence and my what I've determined, and you might disagree with me. But if you're going to disagree with me, it's because you're going to have some way to say that my thinking was not correct as far as the evidence goes. That'll be okay. But mostly people just want to knock you down because you're not with them, And so I'm very proud of that book. That book is available on uh, Amazon and every place else. But if you don't want to get the book, you can watch my series on this on YouTube for free. And so it's a 10-part series, and it's all free. And also, if you want to check out the Madeleine McCann case, I did write a book called Disappearance of Madeleine McCann. That is not available on Amazon because the McCanns threatened Amazon with a lawsuit, so they pulled my book. But it is available at Barnes & Noble and Smashwords and Apple and all that. But you can also, right here on YouTube, I did an audio version of it. I read my own book, so you can get that for free. So, yeah. Aloha. Oh, thank you. I'm glad. I'm so glad. And I was just down in Texas fairly recently, so I got to spend some time and enjoy the area, enjoy the state. I don't know that one. Hold on a second. Wait a minute. I want to see what this says. Inject some common sense. Love your name here. How could anyone that does things like this be considered sane? To be no sane person could. Sanity is an interesting issue. Serial killers are sane. And the reason they're considered sane is because they know what they're doing. They're not healthy. They may be evil if people don't like that terminology, but okay. But they are sane in the sense that they know what they're doing. They know they're breaking the law. They know they're committing a crime, and they will cover it up and try to get away with it. They know what they're doing. Insanity, basically, according to the law, we're talking about the law here, not anything else. Insanity would be you had no idea what was going on. Like you really did think that you were being told to put your baby in the microwave by the devil or God or whatever, and some level of a schizophrenia or a psychosis is so bad that you don't see the real world in front of you. You're seeing a completely you're so delusional in this world that you don't know what you're looking at, and your thinking is completely warped. And so that would be insanity. And therefore you had no clue what you're doing, which is why Yates, I still do not agree with the final conclusion on Andrea Yates, that she was insane at the time she committed the crime, that she was suffering from psychosis. She knew exactly what she was doing. She planned it perfectly. She made sure her husband is out of the way. She planned everything, and then she drowned one after the other. And the claim is she did it because her claim was because God told her to. It wasn't very happy in this world. Now you can have an opinion about life and whether the world's worth it or not. But when your children are begging not to be killed and you can drown them one by one, I'm going to say she's psychopathic. And she wanted to get rid of them because she was tired of dealing with them. She was tired of her husband. She was tired of the life. She was tired of the kids. And if you had a man who did that, he would be in prison. She gets called, so they'll say she's been in a psychiatrist and supposedly on medication and stuff like that for some kind of psychological problem. But she knew what she was doing when she did it. She's a family annihilator, and I will stand by that, even though a lot of people won't agree with me on that one. They'll think, oh my God, no. But women can be family annihilators. So if a guy killed his children one by one in cold blood, I doubt they would give him that excuse, unless he's got a real good lawyer. Death in Paradise is a BBC. It's a BBC production. You can see it if you live in the UK. If you're not in the UK, you have to use. I use a VPN to be able to access it. Or you can go on like Amazon Prime and you can pay for each season. I think one of the seasons might be free. um, uh, That's that. Really? Oh, really? Oh, some of my artwork. That's very nice of you. I appreciate that. I don't know if I have any pictures of any of my artwork available here, but that's the last. This is the last one I did. This one. So yeah, that was one of my last ones, and I don't know if I have anything else. Yeah, that's the last one, and this is my kitty cat. Well, my not so much my kitty cat, but that's my kitty cat, and here he is sleeping in his little kitty bed. So yeah. So, now let me go back down to your comments here. Oh, thank you. That was one of the most amazing things that I've ever studied in my life because I mean, I wasn't thinking about doing history. And when the Discovery Channel called me, they asked me if I would do it. And I was like, I really was, I kind of said probably not. And then I started reading up on it and I called them back and said, okay, I'll do it. And then after I studied the part about the snake, there was just so much more to it. And I was like, and I was reading all the books. I'm like, this makes none of this crap makes any sense. I mean, it's a story. It's a cool story, but it's illogical. And so that led me to wanting to really get into what was true and what was not true about Cleopatra and how she ran her kingdom and why she hooked up with Julius Caesar. And no, I don't believe they hit that baby that she had was his. I believe it was her brother's. And there's just so much that you'll just have to check out my series or the book or whatever, and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's craziness. Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And so far, it looks like I haven't seen any buffering. I'm excited because when I came to Hawaii and I could not get a location where I could link into the router to a router, which unless I was getting my own apartment here, which I'm already paying a lot for just a room, which is pretty cool actually. I'm very very happy with it. But I'm not. I'm in a room, not in a whole apartment of my own, which I might have had a router, but that would have been double the price, and it's Hawaii, so it's not very affordable. Let's see. I've always been fascinated by ancient Egypt, says Laura. I thought I can't pronounce her name. Hatshep was an interesting character. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them, and how much of it is ever true is questionable. Most of history, of course, is written by people who are writing way later with very little information. When Cleopatra, there were actually a few people actually were there during her time who wrote some things. Plutarch wrote way later, and he was writing stuff for the Romans, and so his stuff was very questionable and very very Dominic Dunn type of thing, where he exaggerated stuff and made stuff up that was just ludicrous. I guess I'll give you a quick example. So Mark Antony, when they were trapped in Egypt, supposedly he stabbed himself, which I don't believe he did. And then his men carried him over to a supposed tomb that Cleopatra was in, because it was her husband. He was dying, and they brought him over to her. And she's in this place which has windows and is 4 stories high. I mean, 4 very tall stories high at least. And tombs aren't built like that in Egypt. So it wasn't even a tomb, it was a temple. And so she's in this place, and she's in there with her 2 handmaidens and Octavian, who's he's the Roman guy who's coming to town. He's about to they were going to fight her Alexandrian troops against Octavian, and Mark Antony was going to take the navy out, and then he killed himself or stabbed himself. So Octavian's there, and he eventually captures Cleopatra, but she's in this, and she's got the door locked, right? She's in this, what really is a temple, and her husband's outside dying. So she throws a rope down from like 4 stories up, which is like really 8 stories. If you take a look at the height of those ceilings, she throws a rope down, and they tie it around Anthony, this dying man who's like 200 and some pounds of muscle. And she and her 2 handmaids were probably in their 60s. haul this dying heavy man up the side of a temple. Boom, boom. Ouch, that hurts. It's scraping me. I mean, come on now. Who's going to do that? And the whole joke of it is Octavian, who was coming, with his army, was outside of town. He wasn't even in town yet. Her own guards were at the door. I'm like, wouldn't she just open the door and let her poor dying husband in? Why the hell is she pulling up? Why is she hauling him up a wall? This is the kind of stupid stuff that all the historians keep repeating. It's the dumbest thing ever. And that's the problem when you're going to profile something, a profile history, crime, or profile something that happened in history. You should still base it on evidence and not a bunch of fantasy. Thank you, Danny, for your donation here. What are your thoughts on the Jack family? Okay. I don't know yet. I've analyzed a number of families that have vanished. Most are not abducted, but I haven't done the Jack family yet. So I would have to check that. But yeah, that is pretty rare that happens. I don't know the story of the Jack family yet, but I'll have to look it up and see if that will be one of my future videos because I'm just not familiar with it. Or I read about it and forgot. Well, I can't profile a lot of history just because in order to do so, you really have to put a great deal of time into understanding not just the physical evidence, but you have to understand the geographical evidence. You have to understand the political evidence. And that's a lot. So generally speaking, I don't profile history because of that. Maybe somebody rolled through and said, "Hey, Pat, we'll give you $100,000 to write this book if you'll take the next 3 years." I might say yes, but other than that, yeah, probably not. You're talking about Nick Reiner. Did Nick Reiner know what he was doing? 100%. Yeah, I think Rob Reiner, his dad, didn't know what he was doing, and that he's kind of like he wasn't recognizing the danger of his own son because he kept trying to save him, I guess, and not understanding what he was dealing with. And that's why I did this show, the video called "Why Parents Don't Recognize Psychopathy," which has gotten a lot of people have been commenting on that one because a lot of people don't recognize psychopathy within their own families and relatives, and sometimes it's sad because it's too late. By the time they do, they got a knife in their chest. So yeah. No, probably not. The only thing I've talked about, I usually don't do a whole other thing. I did the Yoga Shop murders, and then they got this guy on DNA. They say he acted alone, and I'm still having trouble thinking that's true. I did mention it during one of my hangouts. Sometimes if you put in profile of Pat Brown Yoga Shop murders, you'll come up with the show I did on it, and then you'll come up with the hangout where I talked about that, the update on that. But I have a little bit of a problem with him doing it alone. I just do. Okay. Well, there were 2 guns used, and there were two DNAs, male DNAs. Actually, there were more. There was the girl did have sex. One of the girls did have sex with a boyfriend. That was that DNA. But I absolutely believe 2 people are involved. So, and they're saying he did it alone. I don't know if they just want to close the case down because they at least got one of them. And he did commit crimes alone, but I don't think he committed this one alone. So, but I don't know that they're ever going to do any more with that. Candy says people that are truly insane don't run from the crime scene. Is that true? Some do, some don't. It's really. It all depends why they're running. I mean, some are still there. One guy in one of the crimes, he was on the street. He stabbed this little kid to death for no reason whatsoever. It just was a kid he never met. He just stabbed him on the street. And then he went to the motel he was staying at, and he took a shower. When the police got there, he wouldn't come out, and he was busy eating a sandwich in the shower. And he also hailed a taxi to leave the scene. So it was a very weird case. It was a very weird case. I think he was psychotic. I think he was off meds and I don't know what he was saying. I can't remember quite all the details of it, but sometimes they'll leave the scene because they think they should, but not necessarily because they're trying to evade the law, just because maybe their voice told them to leave the scene. Um, yeah, as I just spoke on that, there is not a serial killer there. There is not a serial killer. No, again, there are a lot of homeless people, drug users, people using alcohol. There's no signs of damage to their bodies. They're not shot. They're not stabbed. They're not beaten. Could somebody could there be a serial killer who killed one or two people? Yes, but the majority of them, absolutely not. And the police don't like to say they're serial killers because it's a pain in the ass. When you say that, then the media gets on you, the citizenry gets on you, and you got to solve this crime. And it's a lot. It's a lot of pressure. But in this case, no. The majority of times when bodies are found in water, for the most part, it's due to alcohol and drugs, and that's why they're in the water. And because people don't have good balance, they go down to pee in the water, they fall in, they do stupid stuff, just lose their balance. That's it's and so there's no reason, there's no way a serial killer. What are they doing? What and this whole stupid smiley face serial killer thing again? This network. What? Hey, look, there's a drunk guy leaving the. I see a drunk guy is leaving the bar now. Why don't you go get him? So a strapping, big, tall guy, college student, and some little serial killer is going to run up and what? Pull him into the water and drown him? It is not happening. That's not the way things work. Thank you. Thank you. Are there iguanas in Hawaii? Oh, that's a good question. The answer is actually interesting because I'm an iguana freak. I love iguanas. And iguanas are illegal to bring into Hawaii because they are not native. Are there some here? Yes. Supposedly some did get snuck in, although I don't think very many. I haven't seen, they're not like running all over the trees like they are in Florida. Because in Florida, there's a ton of iguanas down there because it's a perfect place for them to live. So once you got iguanas, just the people get a pet and they go up, then they just go and find other iguanas and make iguana babies. And personally, I think it's great. I love being in Florida and seeing the iguanas. It makes me happy. But no, they're illegal in Hawaii. So one of the problems, if I want to live in Hawaii, I can't have an iguana. It's a bummer. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you, I appreciate that. Yeah, I just did starting. My my mother was a watercolor artist, but she never taught me anything. I never actually did any painting around her. She once showed me how to take cotton balls and put them in the sky and make clouds. And that's the only thing she hated teaching stuff. She was like, yeah, she didn't like doing it. And so I really didn't do any artwork. And when I went to the senior center when I hit seniorhood, and I'm like, oh, art classes were really cheap. So I went there and I bought watercolors just because I thought, well, my mother did it. And I was there like 2 times. I hated it. And I just gave all the watercolors away to all the watercolor artists there. And then I did acrylics for a little bit. And I did better in acrylics, but I didn't love them. And then I found pastels. Pastels, that's my thing. I love pastels. That's definitely me. So, yeah, I love pastels. I love doing lizards and little other creatures as well as doing scenery. So, but yeah, fairly recently, like in the last few years, yeah. What case would you most likely like to see solved? Well, of course, Madeline McCann and JonBenet Ramsey, because those have just been out there for so many years, and the media has been so uh, refusing to present any of the evidence. I would obviously like to see them solved. I would like to see the Chandra Levy case be solved because they they arrested a fellow that and then they convicted him, but then they had unconvicted him. And that was one of the times when I thought he did not do it. I'd like to see that solved. And of course, some of the cases I've worked on, definitely like to see those solved for sure. Um, yeah, well, I don't know that there's a lot of them that killed the kids, but yeah, And yikes, no, yeah, no, no. um, let's see. Did Patsy Ramsey write the ransom note? It does appear she wrote the ransom note. I believe, however, because it said the beginning of the ransom note said listen, I believe it was dictated to her, at least the original, the draft one, because who writes listen? But if somebody's telling you, okay, listen, they look at a person and say, listen. So I think that it was dictated to her by John. That's a most likely scenario I've got. And then it was rewritten. Let's see. Oh, good point. Claire, Seattle, is that how you say it? Why do women turn a blind eye to the sexual abuse of their own children by their husbands? Well, because they care more about having a man than protecting their children. Sad to say, but some women, that's what they're into, is having a man, and the children are, kind of collateral damage. So, oh, thank you so much, Carmen. I really, really appreciate it. It's very generous of you. Very, very nice. Thank you. It's awesome. I say I'm not used to doing these open lives and getting these nice, kind donations. What do I think about Todd Grande? I like his analysis on psychopaths and antisocial psychopathic murderers and psychopath non-murderers. Dr. Grande is an interesting character. There are a lot of people who are very nasty about him because they say, oh, he claims he's a psychologist. He's not. He's a therapist and he studies psychology. I have no problem with him analyzing somebody and saying they exhibit psychopathic traits. I have no problem with that. He did work for like 10 years on YouTube just doing therapy shows and probably made no money from it to speak of. But he did that for so long. And then he discovered, as many people do, true crime makes you more money. And he came up with a brilliant methodology of analyzing a crime and coming up with things that show that they did the crime, things that show they didn't do the crime. He put it in a package of 15, 20 minutes with a dry sense of humor, and he's made a fortune. And do I think his analysis of crime, he's not a crime analyst. That's where I think he's a little shaky on. And sometimes, and I do know he doesn't do a great deal of research. I think he does very minimal research. I sometimes for my shows do 8-10 hours worth of research at least. I read books, a book on the case. I'll watch documentaries. I'll go through court records, anything I can. Now, some cases it's simpler. I'm like, oh, goody, I only have to do 2 hours. But somewhere it takes a lot of time. I know he does a very short research time, and he comes up with some very reasonable this and that, and I don't always agree with him. Sometimes I think he's wrong, but at least he explains how he came to his conclusions. And anybody who does a show, who does an analysis and explains how he came to his conclusions, whether I agree with him or not, I'm okay with that. So, he came up with a brilliant way of, wow, he's just, I'll never earn the money he's getting. But, he doesn't bother me. Some people are really bothered by him. I'm not bothered by him. I say sometimes I put up shows where I say I disagree with him. I think he's wrong. But other than that, I'm okay. Pat, thank you for that explanation. I'm not ready for that. Wow. Serial killers are saying no. Yeah, my blood pressure dropped hearing that. Yeah, but they're sane in the sense of they know what's right and wrong. They just don't care. They just don't. It's really sad. Oh, the horrible Netflix show. Oh my God, that dreadful Netflix show. I think I did a commentary. No, I think I commented on it during my season. Yeah, I think it was the first episode of my Cleopatra series. I commented on the Netflix show because it was so god awful. Yeah. I just don't know. I'll have to find out the Jack family one. Just don't remember it. Some of you all know more crimes than I do, but sometimes I've looked at them, but I've got such a long list, I've gone out of my head. So Has my granddaughter given me an update? No, I'm watching the Mac scam, so I know he's okay. Mac. His name is Mac. So Mac. His name is Mac. Mac Cam. It's a Mac Cam. But he's fine. Tonight I looked at him right before the show, and he's in his little bed. So she is going to feed him every Wednesdays. Wednesday is the day she goes in and fills up the food bowl and the water bowl. And she won't see him because he won't be there during. She's actually, I don't think she's ever seen him because he only comes in at night. And if anybody else comes in the house but me, he will bolt out them. He won't stay. So it's just me. I'm the only one that ever sees him. I might be lying. There's really no cat, right? Let's see. It's okay. I do want to comment on this. The Ramsey maid said some really negative stuff. Okay, yeah, it's not the maid. I guarantee it's not the maid. So the whole concept is somebody else got into the house. That the ransom note was not a ransom note. It was written by somebody who knew all the details. There's no way that even the Ramseys don't go after the maid. Nobody broke into the house. Nobody even had a key and snuck into the house. Nobody did that. I guarantee you. So Santa Claus and all that kind of crap. No. This is a as far as I can see, everything points to it's a family member. Let's see. I feel like I've been gaslighted. I read that Brash's DNA was the only one there. I think it was him and another guy. Well, if you look at the DNA issues, I have to go back to. It's either in my original yogurt one or it's my update on the yogurt one, which I did do an update somewhere. Maybe it was in a hangout. That there was more than one. First of all, more than one gun. Nobody shoots people with two different guns, and I think there were 3 DNAs, male DNAs, if I correctly remember. And one of them was the boyfriend, but the other 2, I'm trying to remember if that's accurate or not. But there absolutely, in my opinion, was a second person. Okay, how do I personally cope when you know there's a narcissist in the group? Mm-hmm. In your happy group? Well, first of all, I recommend this. I have a second channel, which I started just a while back, and it is this channel. Dear Profiler Pat, it's in the link below. This one is how do I get somebody to shut up? And they're know-it-all. So you send me questions, I answer them, and narcissists in a group, well, they're difficult because I don't think I can get into the whole thing here about that, but it depends where they are in the group, whether your family group, with your friend group. How can you, if a narcissist is not treating you well and are being abusive towards you, then the best thing is to distance yourself from that narcissist. I mean, no matter who they are. Because my belief is always this: nobody has the right to abuse you. And you shouldn't accept abuse from anybody. I don't care if it's a family member or a friend. I see people go, well, every time I get together with my friend, she makes nasty comments about me. Maybe you shouldn't get together with your friend because she's not a friend. Friends don't do that. So if a person is narcissistic to the point where they always have to, sort of like psychopaths, win, they gotta be the one who always comes out better, then maybe that's not a person you need to spend your time with. There's other people in the world to waste your time on. Don't waste your time on them. I really enjoyed your Springfield 3 case. Hits close to home. You grew up. Oh wow, you're right in that area. Yeah, that was a fascinating case. Bulldog says I started watching Peter Hyatt's videos on the McCanns after hearing you speak highly of them. Yeah, unfortunately, Peter Hyatt had passed on recently, and he was a great statement analyst. One of the few I recommended. Nicest guy ever. Really miss him. Right now, by the way, the Deception Detective is doing stuff on both the Ramseys and the McCanns. And he's got some really good statement analysis stuff that he does there, so you can check him out as well. Yeah, she was a psychopath. Definitely Diane Downs. Yeah, no question about that. I just saw something here. Where did I see this at? Hold on. Where did I just see something and now I just missed it? Where is it? Uh, Was it here? Oh, it was here. Okay. Um, it's Pamela. Oh, thank you very much. That's very generous of you. You keep me company when I do chores like shoveling snow. Well, some people have said that they like to listen to me and it makes them go to sleep. And I'm like, okay, I'm okay if put you to sleep. I just hope you come back and finish the show later. But thank you very much. A lot of people do like to listen to me, especially if I do show during my shows. I do put up the photos and stuff. But you can obviously do dishes, crochet, do other stuff, clean house, and listen. And then sometimes people glance over and notice when the picture changes, they might see that and want to go look at it. But yeah, and my dear profiler Pat, there's no pictures there, so you can always just listen to that and not have to and do whatever you're doing. So, and then, hey, anything that keeps chores, if you can find a way to do chores easily, I just hire people to do them for me because I'm so lazy. Although here in my room, I actually cleaned today in this little room I have. I'm like, oh my god, I have to clean up. There's no cleaning ladies. There are no snakes in Hawaii. That is correct. Yeah, there are geckos. I think we do have geckos here. I have not been to the Galapagos Islands to see those iguanas over there. I haven't made it there yet. Oh, really? Oh, that's cool. My Manuka eye drops arrive tomorrow. Yay! In my last show, what was I talking about? My last show. What was the last show about? I'm blanking now. It's just a few days ago, but I showed I just got cataract surgery, and they my eyes were really dry. And I was getting double vision stuff, and so they went back to the eye doc and they told me to get this crap no, I forgot the name of this. Got it. But anyway, I went to the drugstore to pick it up. It was $250. I'm like, are you kidding? That was for like a month. I'm like, are you kidding me? Restasis, I think it was called. I'm like, and then she said, well, sometimes it takes months to work. And some people said you have to keep on forever. I'm like, you want me to spend $3,000 a year on eye drops? Not happening. So I went online and I found out about these Manuka honey drops. I bought those suckers off of Amazon for like 20 bucks or whatever, 15 bucks. Those things have worked like a charm. Haven't had any double vision. My eyes feel great. I only use them twice a day and it's just go figure. So I'm glad you're getting yours. Hey, I really like them. And no, I didn't make any money off of showing those things either. So yeah. Let's see. Uh, oh yeah. Oh, I'm going to do a show on this one. I do know Colonel Russell Williams, and I've seen him in his female underwear too. Yes, that is extraordinarily unusual case. In the fact that he's one of the very rare serial killers that attained a high professional level. And he became a colonel, and he has pictures of him standing next to Queen Elizabeth, and yet he's a serial killer. One of the most unusual cases ever. So I am going to do a show on him because it's fascinating. You said you're interested in foreign cases. However, what about the language barrier? There are some mind-baffling German cases. Yes, I've already done one. I did the one on one of the German cases, at least I did, was on the family that was killed at the farm. Quite a historic case. I thought that was fascinating. Luckily, I was able to find enough to be able to do the show. And you know which one I'm talking about? It's a long name. Whole family was killed. Very interesting case. Yes, I do cases from around the world. I've done cases from Spanish-speaking countries and from just all around the world. I'll do any case from every places. I do cases out of India. I've done cases out of Japan. So it all depends on if I can get enough information that I can understand, whether it's a documentary that's translated into English, because my German is like Ich bin ein Dummkopf. That's all I got. And Spielen Sie Fußball, which I have no idea why I learned that in my German class when I was in seventh grade, but forgot everything else. And if it's a page which I can translate into English, that has to have enough that I can work with. Otherwise, obviously, I can't analyze something I don't understand. So, I do not do political cases. No, I don't want political stuff discussed on my channel for the most part because it just turns people into raving maniacs, regardless of what their political position is. And a lot of these political cases, those kind, like it was who killed JFK and all that stuff, it would take so much work to get to go through the massive amount of evidence in order to be able to say anything. To even, I mean, I have my viewpoint, but in order for me to be able to give a viewpoint on something like that, I have to be able to back it up with a crap load of evidence, or if there's enough evidence to even back it up. It's just not worth the effort, in my opinion. So, um, Gary Condit, yeah, Gary Condit is to me is still should have been still remained a suspect in that case. So check out my Sean Levy thing on that. Um, let's see. Let me go back here. Oh, oh, this interesting. Do you think the McCann parents will ever admit their guilt or will ever be solved? Um, of course, they say they're not guilty of anything. The child was abducted. However, there's never been any evidence of abduction. And the behavior of the McCanns has always been highly suspicious and concerning. And I do not, I believe if they have something to do with what happened to the daughter, they will take that to their grave because they have two children that they want those children to believe that they are innocent. And also, they don't, the whole reason, if they were involved in what happened, as I believe evidence does support, um, Jerry would have made a decision in an emergency that a child had overdosed, or maybe died of that or positional asphyxiation while they were out partying, which was 100% child neglect. And in that moment, as he says, there was a thing he said, at a moment, basically said, got how he put that. He was saying that whoever did, they did in this crazy moment. And I believe what he was referring to was he had to make a decision. If he called 911 or the police, they could be charged with manslaughter. They might lose custody of the children, and they would lose their careers. Everything would just go to hell. And in that moment, he may have determined that if he could remove the body from the house and make it look like she was abducted, they might survive it. Now, that's just a theory. And he said we're allowed to promote theories unless they're in a book, and then they got that taken off of Amazon but by their lawyers. But I know, I don't think if the reason they did was done to begin with was to protect themselves, they're going to keep that protection going. And they have the full support of the media now, and people like that German prosecutor is full of crap, trying to pin it on. I mean, the guy is trying to pin it on Christian Bruckner is clearly a pedophile and his psychopath and everything that he already is, and a rapist. But there's no evidence he ever had anything to do with the McCann case outside of living in the area. Good suspect if there was really an abduction. I would look at him if there was an abduction, but it just doesn't appear to have been an abduction. The only way that anything will happen is a deathbed confession. Somebody having a breakdown, emotionally. That would be Kate, not Jerry. Jerry never. Kate possibly. Finding the body, but the body would have to be found in a way that would link back to the McCanns and couldn't just be somebody else putting the body there, or had something. There's not really DNA that's going to link back well. That missing tennis bag, if her body were found in that could be something to link back to the McCanns. But as it stands now, without a confession and without the body being found with a link, there's no way in hell this is ever going to go to court. Mostly because the Scotland Yard came in and said, by their remit, we're looking at this as an abduction, and the McCanns have nothing to do with it. And if Scotland Yard says that, you think a defense lawyer isn't going to use that to the hilt? So it's never going to go to court. Yeah, unfortunate, but true. Let's see. Karen Read, well, she was found not guilty, but in the second trial, I do not agree with this jury on that. I think the jury was highly pressured by the media and by internet, and oh my God, by this ridiculous conspiracy theory that everybody in the house decided to support some somebody in the house kills John, and everybody in the house is going to shut up about it, but the person who killed John is stupid enough to throw him out on the front lawn instead of taking his body someplace else. Yeah, okay. And then trying to pin it all on Karen Read, who, somehow smash up a glass next to him and smash up a tail light and put those pieces there. Everybody in the whole freaking town is involved. But I think that she is likely guilty of the crime of being drunk off her butt and being. I think it should have been manslaughter charge probably, but the problem, I think they thought, well, she hit him and then drove away. She left him to die in the snow. So that makes it a little bit more manslaughter, but I think manslaughter would have been smarter to go with. Does she feel guilt? I don't like that woman. I don't like her personality. I don't like her behavior. I find her arrogant. I think she probably is highly narcissistic. I don't know if she's psychopathic, but she's certainly highly narcissistic. I think she's convinced herself that whatever happened, it really was his fault. Shouldn't have been such a dick, That's what I think she probably would have thought. Derek is not bad. It's one of the channels I do recommend. I prefer his channel by himself because he does explain how he got to his conclusions. So I like that. Again, I always say I don't have to agree with everything his conclusions are. I don't have to. Because I think that when people think everybody who's has an opinion, everybody has to agree or somebody's a bum. I don't think that's fair. So sometimes he might disagree with me. Sometimes I might disagree with him, but I appreciate the way he does it. And I appreciate that he does explain his conclusions. So I'm okay. It's one of the channels I do recommend. Aw, I'm so glad. Pat, I loved your book, Only the Truth, very much. Any chance you'll write more stories? Yes, I actually have two. I have one story, which is a standalone, and I'm working on. And it's like, I'm good at writing like 2/3 of the book, and then I get busy and I don't write the last third, and then I don't remember how it was supposed to end. Then I have to go back and I start rereading it. And I'm like, I've never read this. Look at this book. It's like I'm a fresh reader, I didn't even write it. And I'm also writing. I also have a story that it's a profiler series, female profiler. I don't know who that could be based on, but and the first book takes place in Hawaii. So and I started that one last time I was in Hawaii, which was like 6 years ago or something. So, and I forgot how that one ended too. So now I have to solve the mystery. It's really annoying, and so I can finish the book. But yeah, whether I'm going to find a publisher for them, I'm just going to put them up on Amazon, which is just self-public, because these days I've had 5 different publishers, and it's not. If they want to give me a big advance, I'll go with it. But otherwise, I'll probably put it up on Amazon for a reasonable, cheap price, so everybody can not spend too much money. Let's see. What I consider, I always consider these things known regionally, but not nationally. Absolutely. I don't have a problem with how the case doesn't have to be a big case for me to do it. The case has to be fascinating to me, and it has to be analyzable. Because some cases are like really interesting, but I got nothing. I mean, I look at it and go, there's just so little evidence, or it's so old that I can't trust anything that's, some of the media crap is so bad that I'm like, I don't really know what's true and what isn't true. So I can't analyze the case. And if I were a true crime storyteller, I could talk about the case, because I could say, oh, this is what happened then, and this is what the paper said. Isn't this sad? I could do that. But since I analyze cases, I'm not a storyteller. I have to have something to work with. So it all depends what there is to work with, and whether I find it interesting enough. Some cases I thought, oh, I'm not going to find this interesting. And then I end up going, wow, this is really fascinating. And so I don't care whether it's a big case or a small case. It has to be a case I'm interested in. It has to be a case I can analyze and that's useful on an educational channel. So, but also, my email, profilerpatbrown@gmail.com. Feel free to send stuff over there, because sometimes I just forget. I mean, I get a lot of requests, And sometimes what I do is people send over emails, or I see it in a, here, and I remember, or I click on it. I'll end up looking it up, and it'll go on a list of maybe to-do list. So, and sometimes I'll do it right away, and sometimes you'll go, well, she's never going to do mine, and like 3/4 of a year later, I do it, and they're like, wow, finally. You never know. So, but I don't care. I don't care about the size of the case. I care about how interesting it is. Borderline personality disorder. It's a form of narcissism. Can lean towards psychopathy, depending. The biggest problem with borderline personality disorder is that the glass is always half empty. So there's a high level of narcissism where the person feels like they're not winning enough, and the glass is always half empty. Other people are getting more. You're getting more. I'm being left behind. I'm not being treated. So it's if you're married to one of them, or have some other reason you're near them, they can be very exhausting, and they can be abusive, not necessarily physically, but they can be very emotionally abusive because they always have to put you down in order for them to be feeling higher. And you can't ever satisfy them. That's something important to understand, that when they're like that, you can live with them and you can do things with them, and they can be fun sometimes, but they're just never quite satisfied. So if they say, hey, if only you did this, I'd be happier, you do that, then they'll just raise the bar. Well, that wasn't enough. You need to do even more. You just can't win. There's a book called Don't Walk on Eggshells. I think that's the name of it. Check it out. It's one of the best books on borderline personality disorders I've ever seen, especially if you're actually dealing with a person that you're like, what do I do with this person? It's called Don't Walk on Eggshells. Check it out. It's really, really good. Let's see. I don't know who you're talking to, but I've never said that. Are you talking to somebody else? No, never said they were innocent. Somebody, I said, I don't believe there was an intruder in either the McCann case or the Ramsey case. So somebody inside had something to do with those things. Let's see. Let's see. Common sense is not a flower in many gardens these days. Thank you for sharing your garden. I'm really big on common sense, logic, making things simpler, because I think to just deal with life and to deal with solving crimes, any of this kind of stuff. The fancier you get, the more it takes you away from just seeing what's in front of you. It confuses things, and the last thing we need is to be more confused and have things be more convoluted than they need to be. I mean, some things are very tricky, but we don't need to make them trickier if we want to do things. Well, yeah, sexual harassment still exists. Sexual abuse, mistreatment of women. It's been going on forever, and we have a power issue, just generally speaking. Whoever has more power, and there is a simple fact that when it comes down to men and women, men like women, they like women sexually, they're attracted to them, and sometimes they don't use the best decision making when they're around them, and if they are in a place of power, then sometimes they abuse that decision making, and it's very tricky. And so I think it has improved in the sense that there is more awareness of it, and more difficulties in getting away with doing that without somebody complaining. But it's still a problem. I think it's going to be a problem forever. Unfortunately, I'd like to say that it wouldn't be, but that would be unrealistic. Let's see. That's a good question. How many serial killers presently in the USA? I have no clue. Way more than we know. Once upon a time, the FBI would say there was 50. That was a big thing. They always said that. I'm like, where the hell did you get that information from? 50 serial killers in the U.S., one per state. Hell, are you kidding me? I mean, I've seen, I can go to different cities and point out there's probably two here, two there. Two, but how do you get one per state? That's insane. So way, way more than that. Any big city probably has a serial killer rolling around in it. There are so many unsolved cases of people who are have been murdered that just sit in the files because I just don't know who did it. Whenever you get what looks to be a sexual homicide, mostly sexual homicide, without any connection to anybody. That's, I would say it's, I would call that a suspected serial killer. The FBI always said you have to have three connected, linked crimes, mostly sexual homicide, three linked ones with time down in between. That's what makes a serial killer. And I'm like, why the hell are you waiting for three? No, it's like Doritos. You eat one, you want to eat more, you know. So you got a guy who jumps out of the bushes and rapes and murders a jogger. What, you can't call him a serial killer, or at least a suspected serial killer? You got to wait for three, and then you get two that are linked together by DNA. And what do you think, that guy's not going to do number three? Why do you have to? Why can't you go with two? So I fought for years. At least say two is enough, and one should be suspected. If it's a sexual homicide without any connections to anybody, like I say, a jogger. They fought me. They for years are like, they just basically said I was completely wrong, blah blah blah. And then all of a sudden one day they came and said it two. Yeah. All right. Oh, thank you, Edmund Safra. That's where I did the impromptu eye drop thing on Edmund Safra. That's correct. That's what I did on Sunday. I forget easily. Oh my God. It's 3 a.m. in Poland. Yeah, it would be. Yeah. Sorry for everybody in the UK and Europe. It's pretty late for you guys. But I'm glad you're here now if you can't sleep. Did he go to college with Paul Bernardo? Did he really? I don't remember that. I'll check that out. Paul Bernardo and Carla Homolka, one of the serial killer couples for me. I did a show on them. And Carla Homolka is a psychopath. And they wouldn't say she's a psychopath. She's like, oh, I'm being abused by Paul. He's making me do things like give him your sister to have rape and murder. Okay, sure. Oh, she actually OD'd her sister, I think. Anyway, she gets girls and helps them rape and murder them. It's like, oh, but it's all because he made me do it. Yeah, no. And so she ratted him out, and she got a light sentence. And did she get any sentence? I don't know. She's changed her name, and now she is married and has children. But you have to watch the show. I have all the details of the show. I just can't remember them all. I did the Japanese toilet case. So that's a fascinating case. But if you look at the Japanese toilet case, yeah, it wasn't a murder. That I don't. And I also don't think he was trying to see. I don't think he was trying to peep on the girl. I think that's just not true. So yeah, check out my show on that. Okay, some things I will not recommend unless I already did Gypsy Rose. It's already been done. Already done. Some things I will not recommend, and I always tell people to try not to recommend things in the comments, only because this is fine here because I can at least see them go by. But when people recommend channels that I disapprove of entirely, I just don't want them to be getting that information from my own channel. But sometimes you have good things that I will check out and find out if they're good, then I will recommend them too. So, what case was the most challenging? Oh, that is an interesting question. Trying to think of all the cases that I've worked on. Wow, I don't know if I can think off the top of my head. One of the things that I did find interesting when I worked on cold cases was that when I went to work on cases, oftentimes as I flew into location and I rent my car and I drive over to the sheriff's department or the police department, and I feel like an idiot, as I'm arriving, going, what am I doing here? I mean, they've had detectives working on this case. What can I offer? And Then when I get there and I start going through the information and I actually see the evidence, I think, oh my God, there is stuff here that apparently maybe it wasn't really analyzed properly. And I'm always surprised when I find that I'm actually able to get something out of the evidence and provide an actual profile. So that's always surprised me because I always just had that feeling going in that I'm just going to go, well, can't help you, or you got it, and walk away. But usually the reason it's cold is because somebody looked the wrong direction, which is why I think it's so important for detectives to get the training. So if they could analyze better from the beginning, they would go the right direction. Because I've seen things where, and I haven't done this case yet, I don't think, but it's one of my favorites for showing how you can go the wrong direction really quickly. It was a double homicide in Michigan, and the son came and he knocked on the door and his mother didn't answer. Nobody answered. She was over at her boyfriend's house, and knocked on the door. Didn't answer. He broke the door and found his mother, both of them stabbed to death. He tried to do CPR, they call 911. Police bring him in they interviewed him. They interviewed everybody, and they came to the conclusion that it was that he was a drug dealer, and this was he pissed off a bunch of people he stole money from, and this was a retaliation crime against his mother. And he's like, no, they would come after me. They wouldn't come after my mom's. And then the family of the boyfriend, he had just turned state's evidence. He got out of prison. He's a barber now. He's turned state's evidence. And they thought, hey, he was the target. It was his house after all. And I'm looking at this stuff and I go through the case and I'm just amazed because I'm like, how did you miss all of this? Because it was the son who did it. I mean, it was very clear to me. He lied about everything. He said he broke the door down, but the door had no damage to it. He said he did CPR, but the woman had been dead like 6 hours, and the first thing he did when he first found his mother on the floor in a pool of blood and stabbed to death, he said, I looked for the knife. And I'm like, why would you be looking for the knife? Oh, because you left it there when you killed her and you forgot about it when you left. I mean, it was amazing, but there was all this evidence, and I was shocked that nobody saw it. They did a great job, by the way. Great crime scene handling of the crime scene. Great photography. Great interviewing. They just missed all the clues, and they were. I was like, what? So, but the hardest one I'd really have to think that one through. Where one was so like confusing. I don't think I can do that on top of my head. Sorry, I wish I could. I can't right now. Oh yeah, that's the name of the German one, Interkäfig. Yeah, that one. It is true. Oh, I'm not a Dummkopf. My grandmother always said, "Du bist ein Dummkopf." That's the only thing I remember her saying. Although she did love me, I think that was her way of. I don't know, whatever. I'm not going to talk about. Please, Nancy and Queen, do not talk about politics on this channel. Please don't, because it just causes nothing but nastiness. The top is 7. I think there are some who know. I think there are some who do not. I do not think it was the entire top is 7, although many people do. I don't think so. I think it's just a few people. Oh yes, that is true. Yes, John Douglas did support John and Patsy Ramsey. I don't know. There are some profilers who will go with what is the media supports. If you will take the Madeleine McCann case, there are most profilers and detectives and any television will not say negative things about the McCanns. It's all about the abduction. And I was regular on Nancy Grace for years, and when that case happened, I was on her show like 3 or 4 times a week, and she would not have me on the show when they talked about that case because she knew what I was going to say. And so therefore, it was against policy in a sense to talk about that. So there's a lot of profiles and detectives who will not talk about certain cases because they don't want to get in trouble, essentially. And I sometimes when I look at people who are outspoken and generally speaking on the media, whatever, I check to see if they'll talk about those cases. Some perfectly decent profilers or detectives won't talk about them at all. And then there's a few who actually say nonsense about them. They're like, oh yeah, well, she was abducted. And I'm thinking, how can you say that knowing full well there's not one shred of evidence of abduction? That makes me disrespect them if they go there. I'd rather them just be quiet because I don't want, get stabbed in the back and lose their profession. I get that because it's, risky. But when you ignore evidence, and then I have a problem. I have a problem with that. So I don't know. Say I've never been a fan of John Douglas. I'm just not. Let's see. Hi, Lauren just showed up. Karen. There's also going to be a documentary coming out on Karen Read, and I think maybe this week or next week, and it is going to be oh, poor Karen Readish. It's going to be appalling. But I know a lot of people think she's innocent, but just the conspiracy theory is so outrageously stupid. I just can't even fathom how people think that makes a damn bit of sense. But that's the way it is. Isn't isn't living in Hawaii a big expense to finish the book and series? I could try to pull that off with the IRS, but I don't know. Yeah, I could try, but I think I probably will not. Let's see what else you have to say here. Oh, you saw that Eggshells book? Oh, wow. Yeah, it's excellent. Excellent. Definitely excellent. Yeah, it's one of my favorite books. Um, oh, who has fooled me? Hmm. Okay. I would say I don't know if they'd say they fooled me, but I mean, I kind of look like a fool. It was the case of Sandra. Come on, somebody help me out here. Sandra Cantu. Sandra Cantu, the little girl who was found dead in a suitcase, and it turned out she was killed by her little friend's church-going mummy. And I'm pretty sure I was doing Nancy Grace or Jane Velez or some show, and they asked me, about that. And I mean, this was what you call an anomaly. So you go, well, it's probably a male serial killer, it's a pedophile, blah blah blah. I mean, you would think it was a pedophile, right? Turns out to be a little friend's mother. What the heck? So that was a massive anomaly, and this is something to be aware of when you do any kind of analysis or speak out about something. Not There's always going to be the anomaly that's going to shock, and you just go, "Wow, didn't see that one coming." Because there are those, and so when there's a real anomaly, I don't blame people for not getting the right answer because it was so out of the box. You just you would just not think it to be true. So, but I'm sure somebody's fooled me somewhere else, but I can't remember. I try to forget those things. Um, oh, is that the whole? Oh, okay. Thank you for the whole thing on this. The primary author uh, of the influential book "Stop Walking on Eggshells: Taking Your Life Back When Someone You Care About Has Borderline Personality Disorder" is Randy Krieger, who co-wrote the original with Paul Mason. All right, great book. And the other when I moved from my bigger house, when I downsized to a small place, I had so many books. I had, as I pointed out, when I was studying criminal profiling, I read 400 books, and then when I studied Cleopatra, God knows how many more I read and had in my house. And then there were all the other ones after I became a prof. I mean, it's always books. I had tons of books, and I had to downsize because I didn't have room in my little new 900 square foot, small house. And I had to get rid of a whole bunch of stuff, including profiling books. And I looked through to find the books that I thought, if I were going to recommend books, and I'm going to do a whole series of book recommendations on the other channel, and I want books that I really think are good. Like I mentioned, Inside the Criminal Mind by Stanton Samino. Everybody should read that book. I mean, it's a great book. If you're going to study profiling or understand criminals, that's a book I want people to read. And this Walking on Eggshells book is a great book. And so I love a really good book. It's not that there's not lots of other great books out there that I don't even know about, or books that maybe aren't great but could be of use. I'm not saying that, but I do have my favorites. So when I had to make my collection small, that's when I really could say, oh, this is the book I would recommend, and this is the book this I would recommend. Uh, Things that I think are better than the other ones. So yeah, but thank you for getting all that information out. That thing is really cool. Um, she did do that. This is quite amazing. This is actually true. She went on a show and said she hit him with a car, but she didn't think of, you know, I mean, she actually said that. But somehow, yeah, I guess he got up and walked in the house, got killed, and put back out on the lawn. You know, ah, Lord. Um, and some people you're asking me about crime analyst Laura Richards, UK. I just said something about her the other day. I think it was fairly good. I think I had an issue with her on something, but I thought some of her other stuff was okay. I can't. It was just recent that I even knew about her stuff. I'm not quite sure what I thought. Um, let's see. Uh, Not interested. No, I know what you're saying, Derek. I could storytell. I'm just not interested in storytelling. Because the other thing about storytelling is you got to the people who do storytelling do it properly, and I don't have any the ones I don't have an issue with. They do a good job of gathering all the little facts together and then putting all the pictures together, writing a whole script. I don't have the energy to do that. I just don't. I'm just not interested enough in all the details of something that I'm not really going to analyze. So that's why when you see me do my shows, um, I don't have a script. I don't have an outline. Um, I use something simple like Wikipedia or some other basic outline for the show. I can just read from to get the basic information, and then I go into the evidence I know exists, and that's what works for me. That's just the way I am. So I leave that to storytelling to other people, and I just don't have enough energy. I already work full time on the show. I don't have the energy to do more stuff. So I want to have a life. That thing is called a life. Um, let's see. And again, go check out my stuff. He did not kill John O'Keefe. He just didn't. The whole thing is nonsense. Yeah, go watch my video. But let's not discuss the Karen. Go into a big argument over that Karen Reed case. There's enough of that on the internet. But yeah. Um, oh, that's a good question. Long haul tractor trailer serial killers. There is one really cool thing the FBI did. It was called the FBI. How did this long haul? It was like that long haul tractor serial killer study, or actually it was they were gathering up information, evidence of different possibilities for what truckers might be picking up girls and killing them along the way. So it's fascinating because for the most part, serial killers kill within a mile of their home, mile of work, just where they're comfortable, where they know everything, and they're oh look, somebody's available. But the truckers, if they are serial killers, that's the one time when you get the person who is actually can pick them up their victim any place, far, far from their home, and dump them far, far from their home. And a lot of them are ladies working in the travel plazas for the truckers, and lot lizards, what they call. And all they have to do, and this is the tricky part, all they have to do is make sure nobody sees the girl getting in their vehicle with them. And if they can get the girl to get in when nobody sees it, then they just hit the gas, off and running anywhere along the highway. They can pull off, rape and murder her, and then dump her in a field someplace. And the problem is when you find her in the field, unless there's DNA. Now, DNA has changed things a lot, thank God. But before DNA was available for that, you would find a body in a field, probably skeletalized by the time they found the body in the field. And they go, I wonder who killed her. And It turns out the girl was hitchhiking, or the girl was, work as a, and she might be from a state 5 states away. And they're like, yeah, we don't know who this is. Could be a trucker, but it also could be somebody crossing the country and picking up hitchhikers. So that's the other way that girls get picked up and dumped someplace, is by serial killers that are hitchhiking. No, serial killers aren't hitchhiking. The girls are hitchhiking. Although there's that joke. What is that joke? That the guy, what is the guy picks up this hitchhiker? This guy's hitchhiking, and he gets in the car and says, "Oh, thank you for picking me up. I could be a serial killer." And he goes, "Well, what are the chances there will be 2 serial killers in a car?" So that's another way that you have these bodies just found by somebody who's grabbed them and dumped them. But the FBI has done a pretty interesting accumulating of facts and stuff, although I haven't seen anything. I don't know if it's been successful. And a lot of times the FBI does stuff and there's never any, like, if you're going to do this project, can we hear about it? Could we hear results? Because if we can't get results, we don't know how to improve things. But they're very, very secretive about the results of their profiles or the results of these projects. So we won't know exactly what happened, unfortunately. Yes, why the serial killers. For the most part, wives of serial killers don't know that their husbands are serial killers. And the reason is basically this, that first of all, they're usually naive. And serial killers usually pick somebody who is naive. For my favorite example is now I'm going to blank on his name. David DeBartolini. DeBartolini. Mike DeBartolini. Anyway, he was a Virginia serial killer and counterfeiter, and he met this girl, and he takes her on a date. And on the date, he says, "Hey, check this out." And he hands her. She was a kindergarten teacher. She said, "Check this out." And it was his driver's license. She goes, "What about it?" He goes, "I made it." Then on their second date, and you go, "Why would you go out on a second date with a guy who forged his driver's license?" He hands her a bill. And she goes, "What about this bill?" He goes, "I made that too." On their third date, well, she married him. And he tortured her, by the way. She didn't know he was a serial killer, but he did torture her and taped it. Anyway, so they look for somebody naive, somebody needy. And one of my serial killer suspects, who is just still a suspect in my opinion, he's on wife number 3. He tends to go for overweight church girls. Now, I'm not saying that overweight church girls can't get a man, but these women were having difficulties finding men. And so he's on wife number 3. And it's interesting because it was just Veterans Day. And she's been married to him about, I think, a year and a half or something now. She's a veteran. And so on Veterans Day, and I've seen her, she had her uniform and everything. She clearly was a veteran. And she puts up this picture with the 2 of them both doing a salute. And she says, we veterans, blah, blah, blah. And he's her veteran husband. He was kicked out of the military in a very short period of time for being a psychopath. But does she know that? Probably not, because psychopaths can be very good pathological liars. They'll tell stories, and naive people do not check into the stories and question what they're saying. So most serial killers' wives haven't got a clue. And also understand that serial killers, as I point out, don't kill constantly or every time the moon, changes. It's not that. So what happens is, for the most part, they live, quote, normal lives. They go to work, they come home, they buy pizza, they watch football, they have sex with their wives, unless they're unmarried completely, But if they are married, they do those normal things, and they have children. They go to the park with the children, those kind of things. And they use, essentially, the family as a beard that gives them a safety factor, because who would suspect that guy's a serial killer when he's married and has kids and maybe coaches, soccer or whatever? Who would suspect? Not the wife, because for the most part, he's not killing her. He's not killing the kids. He's just killing other people and coming home. Maybe even after he kills the person, he brings the pizza home and says. And so when they hear about, "Oh my God, this girl got killed at the park," she goes, "I wonder who did that." And he's like, "Wow, gee, that's terrible. Have some pizza." Who would think that their husband killed somebody and then brought pizza home? So, yeah, they just don't. Even if the guy's weird, they just don't think that that could be their husband. So, and I have not actually studied that, but I say the FBI has. Oh, I think I talked about that, but personally, no. Yeah, Homolka is definitely a psychopath. I'll stand by that one. Um, Please do not continue talking about the Karen Reed case. Just take that someplace else, because I know there's people here who think she's innocent, and I just don't want a big huge discussion about the Karen Reed case here, because that's not what this show is about. Um, it's okay to have your opinion, but yeah, let's just not continue on that. David Cam, I'm not sure I've done that one. Oh, David Cam. That's ringing a bell now. Yeah. There's a number of a few police officers who have been serial killers. Uh, the creepiest one was a guy who wrote this book called, he was Louisiana, a police officer. He was a total psychopath, and what a serial killer he was. He wrote Killer Fiction. He wrote this sick book called Killer Fiction, which was just a thinly veiled nonfiction book of the murders that he committed. He just wanted to show how gruesome the murders were, but he wrote it as fiction. Really sick. And somebody published it, and I happen to own that darn book. I do. 3 a.m. in Spain, or Jenny. Let's see. No, I've never had a moderator for my shows. It's too much work. Again, I have to get people, and then I don't know. For the most part, because most of my lives aren't public, and most of the time it's pretty peaceful and quiet. So I have never used a moderator. But it's a good idea sometimes. That's for sure. Let's see. Oh, that is very true. That's a good point. A lot of reasons people won't say anything, especially professionals, because the parents are so litigious. Well, obviously the McCanns went after Gonzalo Amaral, pretty much destroyed his life, pulling his book off the market, suing him. It was horrible. And finally he has won in the International Court of Law, or European, whatever that is. His book is back on the market. His second book is on the market, but it was a lot for Gonzalo to go through. I got to meet Gonzalo when I went to Portugal, and we were going to write a book together. We thought this would be great. This was after the first book, not the second book. And we thought, the detective on the case and the profiler who wrote the other book that was pulled from the market too by the McCanns, we should write a book together. And my literary agent, I think I called it the Madeline Mystery, and as a proposal. And my agent sent it out to publishers I've been with before, HarperCollins and that, so on and so forth. Nobody would touch it. They're like, yeah, no, we're not, nope. So we never wrote it. And luckily, once his book got back on the market, he was able to write his second book. But it would have been nice to have written it together. It would have been really cool. But yeah, it's risky, very risky, because who wants to, be sued and go broke over having an opinion? So yeah, that's not a thrill. That's a good question. Is poisoning overlooked too often? Well, a lot of it depends on. Theoretically, if a person dies suspiciously, there should be an autopsy, unless there's some way that the family prevents the autopsy. Sometimes with very elderly, they kind of assume, the person's already 90. Somebody could have helped them along. I'm waiting on that money. But yeah, I don't really have a data on that particularly. I'm really not sure. That's a good question. Michelle, in case of lack of viable evidence, Sebastian Rogers, like, for example, where does law enforcement go from there? Well, that's why I just did a show on why are so many unsolved child disappearances? Why are so many child disappearances go unsolved? And there's a huge number of them. The Nova Scotia kids, the kid out in Australia, Holly, Haley Cummings, a whole bunches of them disappear, never found. The problem comes down to when you have, in most of these cases, and most of them, I believe the families are involved. The majority, not all of them. When it comes down to the family being involved, the problem comes down to if they can't find the body of the child, nobody wants to accuse the parents of doing something to the child unless they have absolute proof. So, there's that possibility that maybe the child did walk away, and if that, and that really throws a wrench into things. Sebastian Rogers, could he have walked away? In theory, does the evidence point to him walking away? It does not. Is he alive? Absolutely not. But they have to prove it, and a lot of times, what happens is people think the police aren't working on it, and they may be, or they may be just sitting there going, we just can't prove it. Unless something comes in that we can prove it, what are we supposed to do? We have suspicions that we have behaviors and statements that make us point at certain people, but it's not enough. It's not enough to prove something. So, and even like with the McCann case, yeah, cadaver dogs hit there. Baby Lisa's case, the cadaver dogs hit right next to baby Lisa's mother's bed. But you can't use a cadaver dog in a court of law because you can say we can't prove that the dog was right. Now, the only way you can prove the dog is right is that the dog actually finds the body, in which case, then the dog has been proven to be right. But if the dog doesn't actually find the body, but just says there was a cadaver here, you can't prove that the dog is right. So even if the police say, get out of here, in the McCann case, you got a dog hitting behind the sofa, a blood dog and a cadaver dog. Why else would it be hitting behind the sofa? I mean, except somebody fell off the sofa and ended up on that floor. And what about the fact that, there's the windows weren't jimmied. The shutters weren't jimmied. There was no footprints outside. There's no disturbance in the house. There's the sighting, family. Let's see here, blanking now. We got Smith sighting. We got the fake Tanner sighting. We got the Smith sighting, which a whole family saw a guy carrying a baby down the street, and the McCanns aren't interested in the sighting of a child being carried away from their vacation flat. There's a ton of evidence pointing toward the McCanns. But does it prove they did something? Does it prove enough guilt that they can arrest them? They have to have probable cause, and they have to have enough of the prosecutor to be willing to take this thing to court. So in most of these cases, if the body isn't found, if it kind of vanishes, they don't know what to do unless there's something like video or confession or something. So yeah, it's really sad. It's amazing how often you can get away with getting rid of kids. It really is true. Oh Lord. Oh. Well, do recover, please. I'm glad. At least you say you're recovering. That's good. Glad you were here, Liz. Let's see what other comments you have before I close up for today. What's the future for Diddy? Well, he's probably he'll survive prison pretty well. Yeah. He got a few years because they didn't have much on him outside of hiring prostitute, bringing a prostitute across state lines. That's all they got him for. He's a scumbag. A domestic abuser, but that's not what he was on trial for. He was on trial for things that they couldn't prove, and they overcharged him. Not that he wasn't guilty of them, but they overcharged him, and all they got him for was hiring prostitutes, having him cross state lines. So he'll do his time. He'll come out. He'll get a documentary and a book. What is my email? My email is everywhere on the internet, so it's never hard to find. But it is profilerpatbrown@gmail.com. So it's pretty easy. Hold on, I'll be there in a second. Hold on a second. Hold on, guys. Just hold on. I have to slip over here. Somebody's knocking at my door. Yeah, it's stopping. I'm looking. Yeah, I'm doing a YouTube show. But no. But I need. Do you have WD? Yes. Oh, perfect. Thank you. Whoa, how did you do that? I worked so hard on trying to get that. You better handle this. Thank you. Appreciate it. Oh. Hi, guys. as my key. I put the wrong key in the door, and I put the wrong key in and I could not get it out. And so I put up a sign that said, "I'm doing a show from 2 to 4, so don't knock." But it's after 4 o'clock here, so she knocked and she just got it out. I worked for like half an hour trying to get that thing out. I was looking for some WD-40 and all that. She did it. I don't know how she did that. But now, well, leaving my keys in the door wasn't a great idea. You go out for the evening and leave your place open. Oh my God. Uh, has my daughter ever asked my opinion in her cases? No. My daughter and I have a large wall. And because she's a detective in my county, and I'm known to be her mother, we do not discuss any cases that would be a violation of, first of all, of her professional work. So no, we don't discuss any of that. We discuss our granddaughter, where we're going to travel. We do those things. Let's see. Sociopath Next Door. I've never read that one, but I hear it's good. And if you have one next door, it's too close, right? Yeah, Sandra Cantu, I said that was a super anomaly. So let's see what else you have to say here. Let me roll down here. Oh, let's see. Oh, what? Oh, really? I work for one of the largest public libraries in the country and requested they buy your book, Only the Truth, print and ebook, and they did. Really? I'm shocked. And my print book, by the way, of Only the Truth, I know it's an ebook. It's a self-pub. So then I said print it because they finally started allowing you to print them. Well, it came up with all italics, and I don't know how to fix it. So the one they got is probably in italics, which is kind of weird. It's pretty, but I don't know if it's how readable it is. I'm going to try to fix that when I have time to fix things. So okay, let's see. What is the brand name of this one that I bought? Wait, I can tell you. Hold on a sec. Dry eyes may be a bigger problem than serial killers. Mine looks like this. Okay, Manuka honey drops. It's what is this crap? Zoxy, Zoxy, Zoxy Manuka dry eye drops. Preservative free on Amazon. Let's see. Again, let's not talk about anymore about the Karen Read case, please. Drop it. Drop it. Take it someplace else. Drop it. Drop it. All of you who are talking about Karen Read, not for discussion right now, please. Todd Kolob, yeah. I cannot, well, actually, the guy who, let me put it this way, the guy who found the bodies and called in the call, that is the person I put at the top of the suspect list. Because, yeah, we'll have to watch my whole show on that, and it'll explain exactly why I think the guy who made the 911 call should have been the top suspect and was not properly investigated. Let's see. Oh, wait a minute, David Cam. Oh, David, I did something on David Cam, I think. Check it out and see if I did something on him. But now it's coming back to me, maybe. David Cam. I'm trying to remember. Mushroom Murders. I did talk about the mushroom murder case. When she fights her whole, her in-laws over and everything, and she makes this, what do you call it? I forgot, where'd you wrap the beef thing? Forgot the name of that fancy dish. Anyway, I always said she had to have made more than one. because she couldn't have put all the mushrooms in one and just got lucky on her slice. It had to be more than one, and she did, so that she would make sure that her plate didn't have poisonous food on it. So that's not, this is a good point, but if the McCanns are guilty, and I think the probability is yes, they are, their ability to lie for so long, for so many people, is astonishing. Yes and no. Basically comes down to this. Once you've taken your stand, you stick by it. You don't change it. And they've told the story so many times. Some people say, oh, they're starting to believe their own lies. No, it's just they know the story and they repeat the story. And once you've it's like performing on stage. If you're an actress, you know that when you walk out, you say this, you move this way. That's what they do. They know what their story is. Now, mind you, it took, if you look at their statements were all over the place in the beginning because they hadn't established the story well enough. So Jerry said he locked the doors. The front door's locked, the back door's locked, the doors were locked. Then he changed it because that didn't work out well. So their story changed in the beginning until now they've come to a conclusion. Then she wrote her book, which is fascinating. And then she tried to prove the story in the book, which I think she did a very poor job of. But their basic story is going to be that she was abducted, and they're going to stick by that. So yeah, dogs can't testify unless you can get one of the somebody who can translate for the dog, which probably there are people on the internet who will say they can do that. Let's see what other things you might have here before I close out. So many great questions and comments. I'll have to do another one of these. This has been a lot of fun. So I might have to do more of this. Let's see. Well, say most of the chats are patron only, which is the link is below. But I might do just more of these open ones. Just this kind of just open question thing. It's kind of fun. I really haven't done this one kind of thing before. So first time, I'm enjoying it. And I think everybody's been pretty good. Every once in a while, I got to slap a few people in the chat room. But, other than that, it's been pretty good. Let's see. I didn't do David Cam. Okay, somebody give me a quick, who is David Cam? Somebody just give me the reminder of that. Beef Wellington, thank you. That was the dish, beef Wellington. I've never had beef Wellington. But David Cam, I know the name, and I'm trying to remember whether I talked about him during a hangout or whether I guess I didn't do a whole show. But I have a question. In real life without crime, how do you play back it? My landlord, she's never wrong. Well, if you can't move, you got a landlord who's problematic for sure. I mean, all you can do is try to protect yourself as best you can, because if you don't have an option, if you can sneakily audio tape something and put cameras up to videotape anything to give you a thing called evidence, because a lot of people call me up, for example, and they'll say, oh, I'm being stalked, blah, blah, blah. And I go, do you have any evidence? And they go, yeah, but no. Do you have any evidence? But no. Do you have any evidence? And the answer is no. It's just their word. And so nobody's going to help you with that. So if you're trying to have proof against the landlord, then you're going to have to evidence. If it's just an annoying landlord who you're just going to have to suffer with, well, then you're just going to have to suffer till you can move. There's not much you can do. A narcissist, you can butter them up. They have a big ego. If you can agree with them, if it's not going to hurt you, just go ahead and agree with them, whatever, just to get out of there as quick as you can. Find a reason to leave. Like, oh my God, this has been so interesting. I've got to go. Bye. No, that's sometimes the only thing you can do. Just the link is right below. You just click on the link and it goes to Patreon. It's $5 a month. That's what it is. What is David? So somebody come up with that. Tell me David Cam, so I don't have to like. Um, I usually have my phone next to me, and I didn't have my phone, so that's why I don't remember who David Cam is. Nobody's going to tell me who David Cam is. Just a quickie on David Cam. No, no. Okay, well, I'll have to see whether I. Yeah, I'm going to look now. For you who are still left here, I'm going to go check. Okay, David Cam. Because now it's going to drive me nuts, so I might as well look it up. Let's see. David Cam. Oh, which one? Okay. Did I not do this? Supposed wrongful conviction. How do I know this one? But okay, I'm gonna have to. If I didn't do this, I'll probably do it in the future. I'm gonna check on that because for some reason I thought I did that one, but maybe I never did. It's not really ringing a bell. Isn't that strange? So yeah, I don't know why. So oh, Brian Koberger, a little sleazebag. He's not very likable. I mean, he's really unlikable, and he's going to be obnoxious because he's always been obnoxious. And I think is it Jeffrey Dahmer got stabbed to death in prison, right? Yeah, wasn't it him? I don't think he's going to be killed because, like, like the old thing. Well, because he killed other people. That doesn't necessarily. Not all people in prison are that worried about that, but he's just so unlikable that somebody would shiv him. I could believe that. So yeah, and that'll be such a shame. Um, yeah. So yeah, Cam. I don't know if he was wrongly convicted. And a lot of times I find out that they haven't been wrongly convicted. They've been rightly convicted, but they're got off by some technicality. So I will check that one out for sure. If I haven't done anything on that, we'll see whether I believe he was really wrongfully convicted or not. Because I just don't know at the moment. But yeah. And a lot of times when they say wrongfully convicted, it can mean The Innocence Project, I believe, should be called a technicality project because a lot of times they'll say, "Oh, this guy, he was wrongfully convicted." When all it turns out to be was that some stupid thing like the police they didn't check out some guy that should have been a suspect, but the police were never thought he was a suspect because they already had the guy. Things like that are kind of crazy. There's a guy. I'm going to do a show on the guy that the Rainers apparently befriended a guy who was one of the Innocence Project guys who was convicted of shooting somebody when he was 17, and they became buddies. I'm going to do a show on him. So, was he wrongfully convicted? Hmm. Yeah, not sure. Oh, that's an interesting point. I'm a victim of narcissistic parents. I don't like the comment there that all psychopaths had hard childhoods. Could you give an example of criminals who did not have a hard childhood? Well, probably not off the top of my head, but I will say this: um, serial killers, especially, there's usually something not quite right about home life, and a lot of psychopaths come from. They do have a narcissistic parent something kind of off about the whole interaction. And attachment disorder is often the big problem early on because there's a lack of attachment to the mother. Uh, and there is a high rate of adoptive children, higher rate than you think for serial killers. And I think that's because of attachment disorder. They were just not taken care of as a baby, and nobody loved them. And now, mind you, I have one adopted son who I adopted at 5 years old, and so they all don't turn out to be psychopaths. He's a good guy, but the trauma that they go through as babies and toddlers can be enough to make them hate the world and not trust anybody and develop those kind of psychopathic traits. And sometimes there's a personality issue that comes along with it. We just don't know nature, nurture, all kind of stuff like that. But some of them come from reasonably decent homes where the rest of the family's okay, or the sister is okay. And you're like, well, they weren't a terrible family. Why the heck did this guy turn out to be a serial killer? And I say there's not an exact answer for that. So, but um, I find it fairly rare that a family is like intact, super happy family, great parents, loving to their babies that turn out serial killers. That's usually not the case. So, not that it couldn't happen, but I just don't know of too many situations that came out like that. So, yeah. So it is important. Home life is very important to have, good parents, good family, love. I mean, no way there isn't. That's important. Hi, Nicole. Thank you very much for supporting the channel. Would you do a live where we can watch along while I? Oh God, no. um, no. I let me rephrase it. I watching an unsolved mystery and narrating as I go along. Yeah, that would be interesting. And something I just the problem is it can't get enough information off of one documentary saying stuff. And then I got to sit and wade through all the stuff that just bores the hell out of me. And all of my shows, all my case shows that I do on the weekend, I have analyzed all these different things. And so I'm going to take you through the basic important stuff of the case. And you will hear how I'm analyzing the whole case. But to try to do that while the show is going on, documentary, and also there's issues with not being able to use somebody else's work, and then you get your channel completely crashed and burned. So yeah, it could probably not my thing, and not safe enough to do. But interesting thought. And that is true. Thank you. Lisa's here to give a nice advertisement for the channel. Yay. And that is true. There seem to be, Marilyn says, some commonalities in psychos and predators with sons and toxic mother. And it's sometimes toxic mother, but it's sometimes, interesting enough, again, something happens very young, but a lot of times what you'll get is a father who's cold and distant and a mother who's overly protective. And some serial killers, that's why they live with their mothers, because their mothers will still have them there, and their brothers are going, yeah, and their sisters. The sisters and mothers will let them live with them, and the brothers and the fathers are like, yeah, get out of here. They're more like a little harsher on that. That has really not been proven. It is a theory, but I haven't seen any proof. I've also seen people say there's all this different brain stuff, and I have not seen any proof to this day that that's actually true. Could be, but I just don't know. Oh, there you go. That's that. Yeah, you have an 8-year-old with empathy and loves animals. I mean, when things go well with your children, and you feel like you have a good home life for them, and they raise up and they're good kids and all of that. I mean, it's nice. I mean, I know some people go through some traumatic stuff, and they're married to people they wish they had never married, and then the kid gets stuck in that situation. Sometimes people they do the best they can, but they end up in a situation where the kid doesn't turn out the way they wish the kid would turn out. And sometimes, we could all go back and try to analyze whether we did things like that's what's happening with the Reiners. People go back and say, well, maybe it's because the way the Reiners acted. Maybe they have narcissism problems themselves. Maybe it's because of Hollywood. Maybe it's because of this. Maybe it's because of that. Maybe. But they had 2 other kids that aren't killers. So, so yeah, can we all find fault in ourselves when our children turn out to be a certain way? Sure. Can we find fault in especially our spouses if they turn out not the way we want? Sure. I mean, we can always do that. But hopefully just we put out the best effort we can put out to raise children and love them. And for the most part, we just hope they turn out well. No. Oh, thank you very much. Oh, wow. And thank you so much. That's very kind of you. That's very generous. Much appreciated. Much, much appreciated. Let's see. I think I'm to the nice and warm. And you're so inspired. I'm right now sweltering. It's really hard to do. What to show your referral link? What is that? I have no idea what that is. Something just popped up and I have no idea what it even is. But on that note, I'm going to stop and I'm going to go search for my Hawaiian dinner tonight. I'm a 5-minute walk to a 24-hour open Japanese supermarket and a store, everything store. It's called Don Quixote. I'm not sure why they would call it Don Quixote, but it is. But I live in an area with all kinds of stuff around me, so I don't think I'm going to be cooking tonight. I'm just going to go get sushi or something tasty. So, oh, thank you very much, dear Profiler Pat School. Thank you. I'm alone with my son, a Chihuahua, and a cat. Aw. Well, son needs a father in his life. Well, they do, but sometimes that doesn't always happen. So, yeah, you're just joining. Oh, wait a minute. What was that? I wanted to catch that. Just joining. Well, at 3 hours, you're 3 hours late, but okay. Are there certain types best suited to profiling, like singles versus married? Logical people. Logic is the number one issue. It's a great, I'm going to end on this question because it is great. Logic, profilers need to be logical. And one of the problems sometimes with detectives who are really the profilers on all these cases, because profilers aren't working with the police department, they're not brought in, so they profile their own cases. I have met detectives that are very logical, and I've met some who don't have much logic at all. And if you can't look at things logically and objectively, and those are the two most important things, logic and being objective, and understanding that your experiences aren't all the experiences out there, and you might have to get help to understand certain things, cultural things. Sometimes you get cases which have a cultural issue or a subcultural issue, and you're like, I don't know how those people behave. I don't know what they do. I don't, what would be suspicious and what's not suspicious. I don't know because I'm not one of the community. So maybe you have to get people from the community to work with you. So having some level of humbleness where you don't think you're just so damn smart that you shouldn't question yourself when you're analyzing things. So logic, objectivity, and humbleness. I think put those three things together, and then you might be a decent profiler. Anyway, I'm going to shut down the show now. This is the longest I've ever done a live show. So, but I really did enjoy this. So I think I'm going to do another one. It's been really great. And the questions have just been so much fun that you have inspired me, everybody. So I shall do another one of these. Maybe next month I'll do another one. So anyway, thank you for being here again. If you're new to the channel, please do hit the subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications. If you want to be in the regular chat room for my patron only lives, do click on that. But again, all of my shows are public after the live is over, so there's nothing hidden. So anybody who wants to learn about profiling or a certain case, it'll be here. And again, if you have a case you want to know about, go to the search engine at YouTube and put in Profiler Pat Brown and the name of the case and see if I've already done it. Because a lot of times I have. So anyway, thank you guys for being here, and maybe I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.